Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order. Welcome to HPANWO TV and welcome to this. It's Reply to Comments 74, the 74th video in which I reply to your comments. The clue is in the title. The reason I make these videos is because I get a lot of comments on my videos. I'm a popular channel, you see, and I very much appreciate everyone who leaves a comment. It really is, regardless of the nature of that comment. It's always a good thing to have them. Now, I don't have time to reply by text. It's simply, that's the simple fact of the matter is, but I feel obliged to respond to you when you take the time to write a comment, especially if it's a long well thought out comment. So I do these videos instead. Now, you may think, well, this is pretty useless, Ben, because your reply to comments videos, I mean, they're 9 hours plus long and you only want to reply to one comment. So how do I know? Why am I going to do that? Why am I going to watch a 9-hour video just to get reply to one comment? Well, firstly, you don't have to. You don't have to watch all 9 hours. Because I'm going to put a timestamp under your video. It's going to say that, for example, in the first hour, I will say, thanks for your comment. It will be on a video. Comment. I'll put a timestamp under your comment and say, thanks for your comment. It will be answered approximately within the first hour of the upcoming reply to comments video. And it'll be followed by second hour, third hour, fourth hour, etc. Second thing is my videos, my reply to comments videos are not 9 hours long anymore. I do them much more frequently. I try to do them every 2 weeks or so, or every 3 uploads. So they come out about between 3 to 4 hours. So they're not 9 hours long anymore. Another reason I do these reply to comments videos is because I enjoy doing them. They're fun. And you, the viewers, enjoy watching them. They're some of my most popular uploads. And I know a lot of you watch them all the way through anyway. So that's why. So we're going to go straight over to the next. We're going to go straight over to the last comment. The first comment that was replied since the last comments replied video. And it's by Max Q. No surprise there. This is, of course, about the moon landings, which the moon landings generates more comments than anything else. And this is a reply to comment 72, part 1 of 2. Max says, amateur ham radio operators use Earth-Moon-Earth EME for two-way communications with powers in the order of 100 watts and a single Jaeger-Uda antenna, basically a TV-type antenna. Do they actually transmit TV signals that way, the same way they did for Apollo? Interested to know that. Okay, there's no need for a reflector. I know, we've been through that. And as I said, I think we covered this in the detectives. Frequency bands used for, and there's some frequency bands here used for EME, but that's Earth-Moon-Earth. But most communications are on the 2 meters, 70 centimeters, or 23 centimeters bands. Notice there are VHF, UHF, and microwave bands, not according to Scott, because anything below VHFs, 30 megahertz, bounces off the ionosphere. Common modulation modes are not restricted to continuous waves of Morse code, digital. There's some channels here. Voice, SSB. So not just a dead carrier, a modulated signal, one which contains information, voice, data, etc. All done with very modest equipment. Nothing like the receive gain of the Parkes dish, for example. So why was it necessary to use the Parkes Observatory? I mean, because according to, I've seen the film, there was a film with Sam Neill made about it. It's called The Dish. So, and it said that basically this was a crucial linchpin in the Earth receiving signals from Apollo 11. What the defectives failed to understand is a transmitter power is only part of the equation. I think actually that's not the case, if I remember rightly. If you, Ben, did manage to get a beginner's foundation license technician in the US, and you still believe the nonsense the defectives speak regarding radio communications, then one could assume you didn't understand some or all of the basic principles. Right, rhetoric. Or you're just lying. Some of the stuff you will learn is stuff you should have covered in school, like Ohm's law, power, and voltage. I did cover those in school. Some stuff will be new to you, like propagation, but it's all backed up by many years of experimentation by people like me. This isn't stuff up for debate. It is all fact, right? So stop debating. Never question. Never question it. You hear me, your Marcus, Jara, all the rest of you? One of the ways radio hams get contacts around the world is by using skip HF signals bouncing off the ionosphere. if you don't get a skip above 30 megahertz. Have you noticed that you can hear some high frequency shortwave radio stations only in the day or night, summer or winter? That's propagation. It's very important for how an amateur to get to know what bands are open during the day, night, summer, winter, unless you want to talk to yourself all the time. Well, I'm used to that. How else do I get intelligent conversation in this place? Don't forget transmit, receive antenna gained also. The ISS is in the ionosphere, so how do we communicate with that if Henderson's correct and radio waves can't penetrate it? I don't think he said all radio waves couldn't penetrate it. I think he said microwaves. The uplink frequency for the ISS is 145.99 megahertz, 2-meter band, and the downlink 437. Okay, so I had a bit of a problem with the timer. I don't know why that is. Anyway, I'm using my phone this time. Okay, the downlink frequency, both above 30 megahertz. Are you seeing a pattern here? Why do we bother with satellites, you ask? Oh, I've already covered that. I've already explained why I think we bother with satellites. Are you sure you're not a flat earther? Think about it. Shut up, Max. Shut up. You know, that's a silly question and you know the answer. Remember what ham radio operators learn. They use in a practical way. Not one would agree with Henderson's silly claims. Ben, could you please give me a timestamp to where Mr. Douglas Arnold says what you heard he said, and one for where Henderson shows on the Apollo Defectives channel how the inverse square law prevents TV signals from the moon getting to Earth. I watched both videos you cite, and neither of them have what you claim. Henderson's might flash up some figures, but those figures should be used in equation to formulate the answer. This he does not do. Right, okay. As far as Scott's video, I can't comment. As far as what happened on the moon, it's 19 minutes in. Okay. Everything else you can find yourself, Max. Oh, Max Q again. See, all really, really long comments. All right. Max Q has repeated the very same comment, it seems. Let's have a look. On the Apollo Detectives video, right? That's okay. Well, there's nothing wrong with repeating a comment. That's okay. I don't mind people repeating comments, but that's okay. But I'm only going to answer it once. And this is the same video as another one for. Let's have a look. He's just repeated the comment a third time on the same video. Apollo Detectives 12 Steam Mumbling Special. And Max, we've got a surprisingly short comment from Max Q now on the Apollo Detectives 12. Alan holds up a piece of something, joking it's moon rock, and Jones believes it. It didn't occur to you that I was joking too, did it, Max? I replied to comment 73. No audio. Oh, there is audio on it. Not the titles don't have audio. I think this is the problem. Jam Noise says no sound, bro. It's because I used Mr. Grey Owl's little start screen and I didn't put any sound on it. And Jam Noise says it's working now. Yeah, it did get to work in the end, didn't it, Jackie? Yeah. And in fact, SBAK4444, who put the first comment on, said, it's on now. Yeah, I know. I just don't use sound in the titles for my reply to comments video. No audio, because there's very short. It's literally just 7 or 8 seconds. I mean, it's 14 seconds. If I did have a 14-second sound, so maybe I'll put a little something on this time. I don't know. Right, reply to comment 73. We have Jim Skim Pivot. And it says here we go. Who says here, Smoke and Mirrors is narrated currently by Scott Henderson. No, it's not. It's narrated by someone else. Don't know who he is. You see, he's gone to a lot of trouble to cover up his voice. So bad that they had to produce a new soundtrack with an actor narrating it. And the reason is because I believe the narrator is someone who is very, very well known in Hollywood. Is a household name within the crew sector. Not an actor on the screen, but someone behind the scenes. I mean, he actually accuses essentially Douglas Trumbull of being behind the moon landing. Now, I said Ward Kimball by mistake in the last video. Douglas Trumbull worked closely with Stanley Kubrick. This could be where the rumor came that Stanley Kubrick was somehow involved, which I doubt. Well, that's kind of what that is kind of what that's. So he obviously doesn't want his identity revealed. It might even be Douglas Trumbull himself. Jin says, the point I made about Alan is that he was denying man had walked on the moon long before admitted they had in front of the BIS. He then went straight back to denying man had walked on the moon the moment he left that audience. No, Jim, we've been through that. We're not going to repeat myself again. That's a misrepresentation of Marcus's words. Allis test. They got usable photos, but the claim was that vacuum destroys film. Williams did not have original Apollo films, and the Allis test was not remotely representative. Well, based on the videos that Scott has made, I think if you have a criticism of those particular experiments, they did use a control film, and you say they did not have the original Apollo films. I don't think they make that type of film anymore. I mean, you guys claim that it was specially made for NASA and had properties which was different to it was a custom made stock. Others deny that. Henderson claimed radio can't get through the Van Allen belt or atmospheric layers. Henderson also acknowledged radio was being bounced off the moon from Earth over a decade before Apollo, which frequencies and wavelengths and amplitudes. Science is pretty safe, Ben, but I get it. You'd rather run with the ex-Cooks version. Good one. That's a silly piece of rhetoric, Jen. And finally, the AI post you said was truncated before you skipped over it entirely. I don't know what you're talking about there. Here's an example of where artificial intelligence fails everyone. Scott Henderson. It's to simplify it easily. When you go underwater and you're in a submarine or even in a suit or wherever, a pressure suit under there, you equalize the pressure in the craft to match the outside pressure of the water. Well, not necessarily. Some submarines have pressure hulls. However, the point being is that when you have pressure on the inside and pressure on the outside and you equalize, there's no pressure on the hull itself. I said, that's right. That's true. Well, there's no pressure differential. Obviously, there are submarines in which which are designed, indeed diving suits, most diving suits are like this, which are designed to equalize pressure on the inside and the outside. They can only be used for very shallow operations, though. For example, if you want a submarine that will go down as deep as the Titanic, it has to have a pressure hull. It has to be a submersible with a pressure hull. So I said, yeah, that's right, and it is. You do see the problem, though, don't you, Ben? He's pretending to be intelligent while talking bollocks. Well, no, he's not. And you not only sit there and take it in without question, you actually agree and confirm it. I agree and confirm it because it's true, Jin. After 22 years in the Navy, I can confirm that subs only use one atmosphere and internal pressure. This is why their internal chambers are perfectly cylindrical to uniformly deal with high external pressure. Yeah, but the outside is not one atmosphere, is it? The outside is going to be considerably more than that because the submarine is deep underwater. What's the problem here? What's the issue? I don't get it. How's that a contradiction? It's impossible to internally equalize to the depth you're diving to for a rather long list of reasons. One, all right, the effects it has on the... Okay, look, it sounds like you're agreeing with me here. The effect it has on the human body. Another would be the fact that internal equipment like emergency breathing gear, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Yeah, designed to work at one atmosphere. Okay, I'm not repeating that because you're kind of agreeing with me here, Jen. Divers do not equalize pressure in their suits for deep dives. They do sometimes. In fact, I know a guy who used to be a commercial diver for the oil industry and used to go into oil rigs in the North Sea. And he used to regularly dive to depths of over 200 to 300 feet. As a result, he had to spend the entire time he was there when he was not diving in a pressure-contained habitat, which was, I think, pressurized to 21 atmospheres. Divers do not equal. Okay, they do, however, have to breathe something to avoid hypoxia. Yeah, he couldn't just breathe normal air. He explained this to me. And it says here, as air under pressure is extremely dangerous to breathe at certain depths. Pure oxygen is harmful. Yep. Nitrogen is poisonous. Yes, I know that. You didn't write that. I just said that. I have to say, I was stunned, Ben. He's putting it all out there. He was putting it all out of his backside, and you confirm it for him without question. What? This, Jin, you're not making any sense here. Let's go back to what Scott said. To simplify it easy, when you go underwater and you're in a submarine or even a suit or whatever, a pressure suit under there, you equalize the pressure in the craft to match the outside pressure of the water. And as I said, some shallow diving submarines and divers do that. However, the point being is that when you have pressure on the inside and pressure on the outside and you equalize those, there's no pressure on the hull itself. Correct. So well, to be more precise, the pressure from the internal external pressure are the same. Therefore, it's a facsimile of there being no pressure at all. And I said, yeah, that's right. So you say, you do see the problem? No, I don't see the problem. All you've done is repeat what I've said and kind of agree with me. Max Q said, don't doubt Ben. He was in the Navy too. Granted, it wasn't 22 years like your good self, more like 22 weeks before they kicked him out. Actually, it was about 12 weeks, not 22 weeks. I don't pretend it to be some kind of Lord Nelson kind of Admiral Tucker kind of person. You don't have to be to understand this. Gin Skin Pivot said, Ben's a bit of a mystery. Bigfoot's real. Neil Geddes Ward talks to the dead. I'm a bit of a mystery. Bigfoot is real. Okay. Neil Geddes Ward talks to the dead. Well, people can talk to the dead sometimes. Mediums, yeah. Man's already been to Mars, correct, but Apollo is fake. Correct on all counts. When confronted with a factual debunking of anyone in his sad little gang, his new catchphrase is, I can't answer that, but that doesn't mean you've proven me wrong. Well, it's a catchphrase, but it's accurate. It just means I can't just immediately think of an answer for you right now. If I go away and look it up, then what we got? We got a 3-week comments reply video. This replaces his previous favorite catchphrase, which was, now you're just using wordplay and semantics. Hilarious. Well, I'm glad you're amused, Max. Q and Gin Skin Pivot. The truth of the matter is, the truth of the matter is, though, I use those two statements and I think they're right. What Jim says at the beginning about me believing what I do at Bigfoot and talking to the dead and Mars and Apollo is correct, and there's no contradiction there. And I've explained why I use those catchphrases. I think they're valid. So you may think that's hilarious, but I think it's perfectly sensible. And indeed, Jin, then this is the end of a thread where Jin completely even misunderstands me, or he says, you do see the problem here, though, don't you, Ben? And then he completely agrees with me. All right, here we go. Reply to comment 73. Jin Skin Pivot again. You keep going on about it, Ben, but don't get uptight about being wrong. It happens to Henderson, Alan, Walsh, and Williams every time they make a video. It doesn't happen to them every time. When it does, and indeed, if I do something wrong or say something wrong, then I hope I'm man enough to admit it. I mean, this is kind of what these films are about, these comments reply videos. And we have here Gary Robinson. Hey, Gary, how you doing? Gary's been very helpful to me recently regarding the old EVP stuff. I'll be writing an article about that shortly on HPANWO Voice. Good evening, Gary. How are you, sir? David Smith says here, hi, Gary. I'm not proving anyone wrong. I'm asking people to prove they are right. Big difference. Well, they're kind of both linked, aren't they? Because you prove someone wrong, in other words, explain to them why they're wrong, debunk what they're saying, and asking people to prove they are right is kind of like a part of that dialogue. It's kind of like one follows the other, if you know what I mean. So there's no real difference, or it's just. Anyway, David says, I've tried a few drugs. I'm not anti-drug, as I've already stated. If I don't experience what some others do, would that mean everyone is wrong? As for being empathic, I'm not the only one being hateful. I'm not the one being hateful towards everything I subjectively perceive to be woke. Just saying. I'm not the one being hateful towards everything I subjectively perceive to be woke. Just saying. Okay. Well, I think I'm empathic, and I don't think I'm being hateful. I think I'm being critical, if that's what you mean by me and Gary, because we are sort of anti-woke people. Gary says on reply to comment 73. Hey, Ben, in regards to what you were saying about Alec Guinness's... Oh, and I'm just need to check something. Yeah, I'm just checking I'm still recording and the time. The usual timing thing I use just didn't work for some reason. It just kept going off. which is why there's these little gaps in the first couple of minutes of this video where I've sort of cut. There's some cuts you may have noticed in the first few minutes of this video. In regards to what you were saying about Alec Guinness's share in Lucasfilm, he actually took points on the first Star Wars movie, but he didn't have any shares in Lucasfilm itself, as far as I know. Oh, right, okay. American Graffiti was in fact a huge smash hit, in which took everyone by surprise. Yeah, I've never seen that one, you know, Gary. Lucas used most of the money he got from that movie to launch the visual effects company, Industrial Light and Magic, which he did because he couldn't find anyone else to produce the effects for Star Wars other than Douglas Trumbull, who worked on 2001: A Space Odyssey and another little film on the moon we've been discussing. Possibly. But Douglas turned him down. A bit of trivia for you there, mate. Cheers. Fair enough. I don't know why. Maybe Douglas Trumbull was busy filming the Viking missions. I don't know. Because that was 1976, wasn't it? But thank you very much there, Gary. Much appreciated for that little bit here. Right, we have Jack Parker here on reply to comment 73. Totally out of the topic question, wondering, that's not like you, Jack. If some guy who used to be ex-president by chance was taken into custody, which has happened, hasn't it? And some other people who weren't in custody begin blowing up federal buildings and attacking legal facilities, police stations, court buildings, etc., jails, just as now they seem to tell you file online any police reports, would there be nowhere to house them? Technically not, Jack. If the jails are blown up, technically not. Building to contain these individuals for work, and would they get their marching orders only online and suddenly jumping out of apartment building doors in residential areas? Like Superman man in uniforms instead of capes, maybe worse for those not in custody. They'd never know where one was going to jump out of them with an internet assignment. In that very bar, you might be sitting next to them, on duty, drinking or not. Yeah, you're, as always, Jack, you speak in quite an abstract style, but I assume you mean that they would dispose of people, eliminate them, wet work. I can't rule that out. Jack says here, so a cop turns to you in a bar and says you've just been ordered arrested. Sir, is that a picture of you? Sign there, sir, will be off in a bit. Where? They haven't told us yet. Sign. So I don't understand you, Jack. But if a policeman did that and said I was under arrest, obviously I wouldn't say anything. Just I don't want to incriminate myself. I'd check they weren't arresting me wrongfully. I'd say, you've got to read me my rights and stuff like that. Jack says on the reply to comment 73, maybe all police officers would have an embedded chip that only citizen scanners can detect authenticity with. Oh, that would probably be useful as long as I had the scanner. Jack says here on the same video, jurors assigned by online prompt. They would have to log in and view court case in question, maybe while working, to run back and be reviewed periodically. I don't think online trials would be very useful. I mean, for example, the security of the operation. I mean, as you know from the George Floyd situation and the trial of his alleged killer, the problem with security, the need to sequester the juries, things like that, is vitally important with highly charged cases. There's all other reasons why you wouldn't necessarily have operational security on that trial, even for simple things. And the idea that you could just nip out while you're working is no, that'd be a very, very bad system indeed. And Jack says jurors would have to continue to be spot tested as to having absorbed the material. Well, this is why I think trials, courts would have to stay as they are. Jack says a movie, at least somewhere in there for this idea. I think it probably would be. That's not a bad idea. That'll be a good sort of dystopian science fiction scenario. A bit like what's that film called with Tom Cruise, where you have these Minority Report, where you have these sort of scenes of the future and everything's automatic. Yeah, same video, Jack Parker. I guess that's the screenplay taken and run with. You're going to have to type a bit more in for more substance. Well, of course, Jack, that's just a brief synopsis. a basic synopsis. But I mean, I don't think I'll probably write that myself. I don't have time. But if you want to do it, go ahead. I'll come and see the movie. 73, Gary Robinson says, there are 4 versions of Mutiny on the Bounty. First was the silent movie in the 20s. Not seen that one. No, I'm not seen that either. Charles Lawton and Clark Gable version was in the 30s. Amazing film. All right, I said the 50s. It was obviously earlier than that, the 30s. That was a very good film. Charles Lawton plays. That's the most Machiavellian incarnation of Bligh. Certainly, he's a monster, and Charles Lawton's Captain Bligh is just a complete demonic, psychopathic monster, which of course develops sympathy in the viewer for the mutineers. Marlon Brando in the 60s, good but not amazing. Yeah. Anthony Hopkins, I haven't seen that one. Anthony Hopkins and Mel Gibson in the 80s. Again, quite an amazing film. That was good. Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty good. A sequel was in development but was never made. I think it was going to be called People of Pitcairn, as in the island. Cheers. Yeah. Of course, they did stay on the island. In fact, they're the descendants of the mutineers are still alive today on Pitcairn Island. The surname Christian is still, some of them still have that surname. Crafty Nihilist says, oh, Crafty and I will be making a video soon. All 3 of us, and you'll like it. So let me get this straight. You are insisting I sit through a 9-hour video without a break or any communication from the outside world 12 times in a row while hitting myself in the face with a blunt instrument. I think that's a bit much, mate, to be honest. Well, you know, it's just when you do that for long enough, you'll kind of, your willpower will dissolve and you'll be completely under my control. Nothing as it seems says, being hit by a blunt instrument in California could be misconstrued as a spleef to the cranium. Right, I don't know much about California, except it's a place where my friend Gareth used to live, come from Wales. Sax Glenn says on 73, there's a Masonic lodge on the moon. There may well be in the dark side base. Who knows? I mean, Crafty Nice says on 73, shat BBC, no thanks. Well, I mean, there's nothing better to do for them, is there? 73, Jam Noise, 72, there's a timestamp here. She says, yeah, you got one of my jokes. That laugh. Let's have a look. Yes, we're still going on about 9/11, Keith. John Nolan. Did I? Oh, right. Well, that's good. That's good, Jackie. I'm glad. We now have Gary Robinson on 73. Who says, in regards to what David was saying about, I think that's David Smith, about not being bothered if they remake the Goonies with a female cast of ethnic minorities, well, that's exactly the problem, and I'll explain why. Yeah, I wouldn't like that, Gary. I really wouldn't like that. I'm a fan of drama and always have been, and as a result, I could give you a long list of British, Hollywood, and international films about gays and lesbians that I consider to be great films, many of which I made the effort to see in the theatre, as well as owning them in my extensive DVD and Blu-ray collection. Yeah, I mentioned Prick Up Your Ears. I think that's a very good film. I like With Nail and I as well. That's good. What I don't like is people remaking classics so they can gender swap and race swap the characters. Yeah. This is identity politics, which is nothing short of a disease in today's society, correct? From an artistic and creative perspective, people should be creating new characters if they want to push people of color. For example, I'm a white geezer, but many of my favorite shows and movies feature mainly black people, such as Snowfall and Top Boy, for example. These are great shows with original characters. That's why they work. The same goes for the recent House of the Dragon series, which introduced black characters into the Game of Thrones universe. Apologies for the fanboy usage of the words universe, #cringe. What doesn't work is Disney's forced agenda of making characters gay in order to promote LGBTQ lifestyles, or the remaking of classic films just for the purposes of gender and race swapping. It's bankrupt both creatively and morally, and I don't understand why people can't see that. I quite agree, Gary, and you know, more and more people can see it. We've talked before about Indiana Jones. It's actually in the mainstream. This was actually mentioned, I think, on Sargon of Akkad's channel. that they're actually about the situation with the ending. They're basically reshooting half the film, re-editing the other half, basically. Yeah, I mean, I quite agree. If they want to do what they're doing to Star Wars and Star Trek and all these beloved franchises, they should just leave those alone and create their own franchises, new ones. But of course, they won't do that because they know no one. They'll be very, very unpopular. They're essentially tricking us. They're kind of. It's kind of like it's a decoy. It's a decoy for drawing us in to this propaganda by taking a franchise that everyone knows and loves, and then so people's attention is focused on it, and then spring in a trap by filling it with wokeism. If they didn't do that, then of course there would be no decoy effect, which means we could see it. They know people don't like it. That's the thing. They know people don't like it. They're just hoping that enough people will just come into it, thinking, not realizing it's there, and get their minds warped before they can escape. And it's not working. You see, it is actually failing, which is why there is this backlash against it. This is why the shareholders are kicking up, because they don't want their woke boards making them, the shareholders, broke. So it is bankrupt creatively and morally, and luckily there is a resistance. But you're quite right about all that. Yeah, David says underneath, what exactly do you mean by identity politics here, Gary? And why do you think it's bad? What's wrong with showing LGBTQ people exist? No, David, did you really read Gary's comments there? We've both been explaining. He says here, I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this out again. International. Okay. I could give you a long list of British, Hollywood, and international films about gays and lesbians that I consider to be great films. That's what Gary said. That's a quote. And you say here, what's wrong with showing LGBTQ people exist? David, do you actually read what Gary? Did you read what Gary posted? Did you actually read what he posted? He never. You can only say I never said that so many times, and it's just like, I never said that. I never said that. I never said that. And you feel like you're shouting into a wind. As for the beginning, what do I mean by identity politics? You telling me you don't know what is meant by identity politics? Why do I think it's bad? Why do I think it's bad? Primarily because it's one-sided. It's only everyone's allowed to do it apart from white men, and that I think is unfair. That isn't ethical. That is basically taking two identical ethical equations and making out that one is good and the other is bad, which is logically and morally contradictory. I said this to Bowler Hat Man, and he said, "No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not." And all right, so here is Gary here, right? On 73, David mentioned that he listened to the Disney Zoom meeting in which the executives were talking openly about forcing their gay agenda into kids' movies and shows, and he mentioned that he didn't find it disturbing at all. Apologies, I can't remember his exact words, despite only listening to the clip. I don't know how you can listen to that video and not find it concerning. Yeah, I mean, see, it wouldn't. If it was just adults, that would be 95% of the problem out the window. It's the children that I have a problem with, because Disney makes essentially films for children and young people. That's their target audience. I don't know if David has a family, and it's none of my business, of course. But if he does have young children, oh, I put a stamp on it, right? If he does have young children, I wonder why he would be happy to leave them in front of Disney Plus for the weekend. Without wanting to sound dramatic, the guy who runs the Overlord DVD YouTube channel recently said in regards to the woke destruction of classic films and shows that the difference between humans and animals is that we need art to feed our souls, and if our art is being destroyed through bad movie remakes and books being banned, then our souls are being fed junk food. Correct, Gary, or to use George Orwell's expression from 1984, prole feed. I'm not having a go at David here, by the way. Totally respect his opinion. It's just I feel very strongly about woke, as I can see where it's going. Cheers. Yeah, me too. David Smith says, I'm no fan of Disney, but I'm not seeing what you're seeing, Gary. If they change a male to a female in a film, it doesn't bother me. Well, it does me, David. By the way, David, would it bother you if they remade Agatha Christie's Miss Marple, but had Derek Jacobi playing him and called him Mr. Marple? Would that bother you? Would it bother you if they remade Zulu and had white people playing the Zulus? Would that bother you? I mean, I'd walk out of travesties like that. If they have a non-hetero relationship in a film, it doesn't bother me. Well, if you read what Gary says, it doesn't bother him either. Do I have to repeat that quote I just gave you from him? It's a reflection of societal changes and the freedoms we have. No, it's not. It's this crazy idea that somehow, society changes like naturally and just of its own accord, and then the media simply is a reflection of that. No, it's the other way round, David. It's the other way round. And as for freedoms, well, we have fewer freedoms now than we had a few years ago, don't we? You can't even express an opinion now without the police knocking on your door, accusing you of offensive behavior or misinformation. David continues, I think it's far more beautiful and spiritual to be open about the differences people have, rather than forcing a straight narrative. But this is again misrepresenting our position. I think it's great that there are films about the differences we have. And no one's forcing a straight narrative. What's a straight narrative? Prick Up Your Ears, a film I like. Gary says he likes a lot of films with LGBTQ people. That's not a straight narrative. Again, are you actually reading what we're saying, David? Being accepting and showing others that they can be accepted seems far more beneficial for our souls. Oh, look, it's only, David, it's only in the last few years. So this idea has come about that if we don't have absolutely violent militant wokeism in every single publication that comes out of the media, that somehow people aren't being accepted. It's literally just the last few years this idea has come about. Before that, I mean, with the success of the gay rights movement, the abolition of the LaBouche Amendment, things like that, we kind of reached a kind of stability, and then suddenly it stirred up again, and then they say, but we're not stirring it up again. It's just always been like that, and this is nonsense. This is bullshit. This is historically blind. That doesn't mean the movies they make are any good because they have these things. The quality of the movie, I believe, stands on its own. Yeah, but generally quality has gone down anyway. I mean, Hollywood and many other media outlets appear to be losing their creative spirit right now. They're suffering from a terrible case of writer's block. And even if you take away the woke agenda, I found that. For example, the third Ghostbusters movie with women, I never even watched. I considered it a sacrilege. I considered it a desecration. However, another reason I didn't watch it is because the second one was so awful. Perhaps they should be, good films really shouldn't have sequels. I'm almost at the point where I think that. And if Disney makes duds, they will lose money. So the problem should fix itself if it really exists. Correct, David, and it is. That's the thing. That's exactly what is happening. And I'm delighted. I believe it's just right-wing scaremongering. No, it's not. Would a Disney executive want to exploit fans at any cost? Well, if they were part of some fifth column, yes. Probably. That isn't woke. That isn't a woke issue. That's just business. Well, it can't be, because if it was business, they wouldn't even be doing this. And if it was business, and indeed it is. The reason it is business is they're kind of losing out now, and I think they've realised they come up against a brick wall, which is why you have things like Indiana Jones being essentially remade at the last minute at enormous cost. I mean, their insurance company won't cover them for this. So basically, I don't think you quite understand what Gary and I are saying, but you kind of also, what you say is kind of true in the sense that all these conditions that you lay out saying, well, if it didn't work, well, this would happen. Well, it's not working, and that is happening. And we have here now Gary again. Here we go. I'll just put that in there. Who says here on 73, Ben, mate, I'll try and make this my last woke watch comment for the month. Oh, Gary, I'm enjoying them. I'm not sure if you've heard, but Disney have fired a Marvel Studios executive called Victoria Alonso, a gay Hispanic lady who was in charge of physical production at Marvel Studios since 2005. In recent years, she's become sidetracked by wanting to push woke themes in movies and by swapping out the male superheroes with women in what she calls the MCU. That's obviously male, she, or universe. I think that's what it means. That's had a severe effect on the quality of the films, most of which are now flopping at the box office. There you are, Gary. Yeah, we predicted this. She was also responsible for a number of strikes amongst computer graphics artists working for Marvel as a result of how badly they were treated. Well, I bet the white men were treated badly, weren't they? And hopefully those outside that demographic will stand up for them. They are currently in the process of unionizing. Good. A couple of weeks ago, she refused to blow out a rainbow flag in a new Marvel movie for the version of the film that was going to be shown in Kuwait, and that was the final straw. I love it when this happens because, of course, these wokeists, they keep going on about, oh man, this are horrible, horrible, oppressive society where white men, white Christian men, white heterosexual Christian men are doing all kinds of evil atrocities on the innocents. And so we're going to market this film in the Middle East where there are no white people and they're all brown and enlightened and liberated. So you send it over to Kuwait, which of course is like a country in which the dominant religion is Islam. And they're 10 times as based as, as you know, arse crack Indiana. Well, they don't then. But of course, it kind of does not compute. But you're not white. How can you do this? You must let me show this flag. And they say, no, lady, we do not allow this in our country. We are traditional. But you're not white, surely. And Gary says, if that wasn't bad enough, the computer graphics artists working on the Indiana Jones 5 have also gone on strike. You know what it is? Gary, I think they see the writing on the wall and they realize, look, if we produce this, if we actually put this out to the viewing public, it's gonna flop so badly. We're gonna all be made redundant. They'll be shedding jobs left, right, and centre to prevent bankruptcy. These people working in the crew, behind the scenes, they know this. And unlike the actors and the people you see on screen, they don't have that cushion of going on to other roles. I mean, they're very specialised. I mean, Harrison Ford can always go on. He can always go and play a monk on some desert island somewhere on the BBC. People who make these stuff for Marvel Comics can't. He said, and it's said to be that the latest rehash of the movie looks terrible and plays even worse. I was talking to a friend of mine on Facebook about this, and I said it's going to be full of anti-white, anti-male woke crap, so I'm not going to watch it. And he just replied, hope not. Bob Iger, that's a good name. Bob Iger, the head of Disney, has given Kathleen Darth Woke Kennedy. That's her real name, Kathleen Darth Woke Kennedy. I know it's Darth is a real name, isn't it? An ultimatum that it has to be woke free and make at least $900 million, or she's out the door. A woke remake of Willow, which focused on a gay teen girl character, has also been cancelled by Disney. Things are changing at last, I think. Cheers. Thank fuck for that. Well, they could have just listened to us, couldn't they? They could have just heeded our warnings of what everyone was saying to them. Don't do this. Gary Robbins says, one last woke comment on 73. All right, one last one, Gary. David mentions that anti-gay has been programmed into us by the church over the centuries, etc. It was maybe into our great-grandfather's generation or so, yeah, but not us. I have had gay and trans colleagues and friends in the past, and woke doesn't make me like them any less. Oh, Gary, that's always the way, isn't it? You say, well, I can't be racist because I've got black friends. That's what they always hit you with, though, Gary, don't they? Yeah. If I can be anti-woke and value having friends who are gay and trans, then I'm sure millions of other people around the world can do the same. But Gary, it's your implicit bias. It's your subconscious privilege. The woke agenda is messing with kids and asking them questions that they don't need to be asked. They need to be left alone to be kids, which is what Ben is saying as I'm typing this. A child doesn't need to be asked if they're gay or straight, and they don't need to be asked if they feel like a girl or a boy. No, exactly. They don't. If they volunteer that information, it should be to their family, and their family should be dealing with it. Not someone that call it a long-haired, greasy-eyed gimp from the local education authority. I like that catchphrase. It's no different from going into school and asking kids if they like drugs. Hey, kids, ever heard of drugs before? Why not try this? I'm thinking of that scene from South Park. The kids, kids, this is a joint and you mustn't smoke it because it's bad. I'm going to pass it around now and you can have a look at it. Because, okay, can I have the joint back now, kids? They're all going, no, one of you's got it. Can I have it back now? David has replied here. Who's asking kids these questions, Gary? Some horrible people in the educational world, David. Not and don't forget Disney implicitly in their films. Not all kids are the same. I know that. Treating them as such is what can lead to mental health conditions. What? No one's treating them the same, David. That's not happening. Nobody's advocating for forcing them to do something against their will. Lots of people do, David. They do. They are making it easy for them to seek help and guidance, which not all of them can do at home. Well, you see, if they're in a kind of home environment like that, then we already have social services for that. Okay. And social services used in the proper way, not overused as they are in our society. Also, I think by promoting good families, we can promote another generation. For example, I believe I'm a good father to my daughter, which means she's likely to be a good mother to her children, etc., etc. This should be obvious considering all the horror stories over the years of being gay before it was more widely accepted. Correct, David. I mean, I've spoken. If you watch my Helen Duncan video, I've spoken about the horrible cruelty inflicted on Alan Turing, for example. That was in 1952, and you could go back to other times, and you could hear hundreds, thousands stories like that. But there's this myth that somehow that kind of attitude still exists in our society, just under the surface. It beats within the heart of every straight white male. Literally, there's this thin veneer of there's a thin veneer of tolerance and reason, and underneath that, right-wing fascist bigotry is just going to break out at any moment. False. Totally false. David said, we had lessons on drugs at school. Yeah, I did, but ours were about preventing drug addiction. I mean, we remember Grange Hill. I don't know how old you are, David, but there was a character in Grange Hill who was a drug addict, and they brought out a song called "Just Say No, No, Just Say No, Just Say No." They never asked us to try any of them, Gary. I'd like to see your evidence for your claims that kids are being directly influenced to become trans, gay, etc. Well, I can answer that. Just simply having it continuously in a child's life when it's not something that would normally be in their lives is enough to influence them. To have it in the media, things like that. You should see Edward Albanese and what he said about putting things in the media to influence people's lives. I believe that children under a certain age should not be exposed to anything to do with sex. Obviously, they know about. I think they obviously know about the facts of life. They know they have a mother and a father, like everyone. They have a mother and a father, even if they don't actually live with either of those two parents. They know that they must have had one. So that's the basic biology. Apart from that, they shouldn't be told anything until they're old enough to deal with it. And then I think it's something that should be allowed to be dealt with within the family. If that's true, then I agree with you. It's wrong, but that's not what anyone I've seen from the trans community is saying. Well, I think, David, it is. I mean, do you see my interview with Claire Ray Randall? I think it is. It's all about helping some kids who will have feelings in those areas which impact them negatively unless they get help they need. That's just a fact. And you're in opposition to this? I'm not, David. I mean, I said I believe that the family should be dealing with this. Children, I believe, will choose their own mentors if their own parents are in. Put it this way. I mean, I grew up in a family where I couldn't really approach my parents for help or support for difficult situations. And as a result, I found other people who I could trust, especially when I started at the hospital. One guy in particular, Barry, who I've told you about, who died. And these sort of things happen organically without the help of some fifth columnists, from the local council. When you're on the side of literal Nazis turning up at rallies in support of speakers who say what you're saying, that should give you pause for thought. Oh, don't be. I assume you're talking about Kelly J. Keane and her trip to Australia and New Zealand. I think I might have explained this on one of my live streams, but those people turned up doing like Roman salutes were nothing to do with their movement. No one knows who they were. They turned up wearing sunglasses and uniforms. They were probably agent provocateur. 73 Gary Robinson. By the way, I do agree with David that anti-gay has been programmed into us. That's fair enough, but that's how it was at one point. It certainly was. I mean, when it comes to, like David mentioned, the church, and he's right about that, and I don't approve of that. It seems that societies have varying tolerances for homophobia, for homosexuality, and in modern times it generally is more. People in the West generally don't really mind anymore. And there, of course, there was a time in ancient Greece, of course, where it's perfectly acceptable, things like that. It varies. But and I personally believe in adults being allowed to do whatever they want with their private lives. That's my general view. We have Gary again here saying something about I'm being very lazy here, as I shouldn't be responding to David's comments, so apologies for typing a new comment. In regards to what David was saying about shared experiences under psychedelics, to prove that each of the people have seen the same thing or experienced the same beings, etc. Firstly, I have no way of proving this, as you can imagine, David, so all I can tell you is what happens in our local ayahuasca ceremonies, which sometimes involve psychedelics from frogs as well as ayahuasca cielo, as in sky. That's apparently what it means in Spanish. I have many stories, such as groups of people early on in the evening seeing flying objects and being able to describe their shape, color, and movement with accuracy across the entire group, with sections of the group not reporting the same thing until the morning session where people share their experiences. You know what? As I'm typing this, I realize there is no way I can make this sound valid in any way, shape, or form. Well, it's, again, you can't take a photograph of the world you enter on these drug trips. It's like a near-death experience. We simply have testimony, we have witness testimony, but it's convincing. It's the kind of thing you'd expect if people were describing something objectively real. As I explained last time, with people across the world in different cultures see the same things. So there's only two possibilities: either the brain of every human being, regardless of race, culture, geography, etc., is hardwired to produce certain images under certain states of consciousness, which itself requires incredible explanations, or what they're seeing is an objective reality, and I think the latter is far more likely. So I guess Ben is right. It might be more productive to look up someone like Rick Strassman. Yay! I'll end by saying that one of my family members, who is a skeptic, regularly attends the sessions and one day brought a friend from the USA. Everyone in their group had visions which informed them that his soul had only lived a handful of lifetimes, and as a result, each of his lifetimes from now on would be focused on servitude. They each saw him in visions, groveling and serving people who had lived countless more lifetimes, and therefore the lessons they had learned and had granted them better lives. As the evening went on, this guy proceeded to crawl on the ground, bowing at people's feet, asking to serve them. Go. That sounds really quite comedic. This was after the visions. He did this until morning, apparently. So that would be one example of a shared experience, not involving interdimensional beings, but certainly involving some kind of information flow. Cheers. That's an extraordinary story. Very funny, but very interesting. Very interesting, Gary. It could. I mean, sometimes people do discover past life memories under these circumstances. I mean, for example, they discover, for example, something they did in a past life, and they're now having a karmic experience as a result of that. Could be that that's what I'm going through now in my life. David says in reply, sounds more like an ASH conformity, ASCH, conformity experiment situation. There needs to be real experimental evidence. Having everyone sitting around talking about what they saw is about as far from credible as you can get with something like this. If Rick Strassman has good evidence, the question becomes, why isn't it being accepted? It requires another conspiracy. That's the problem. Well, I'm just going to look at what ASH conformity is. Hang on. ASCH. ASH conformity experiment. Oh, I think I know what this is. This is where they show you they show people different shaped lines. Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. It's where, and everyone else in the group is basically in on it, and they say which is the longest line, and everyone in the group except one of them is in on it to say the wrong length. So the second shortest is the longest, and they find that the person who is being experimented on tends to conform with them rather than just say, hang on, you're all wrong. It's line A is the longest. You keep saying line B. I mean, in that situation, I would probably I'm one of these people who doesn't give a damn, so I'd probably just say, yeah. But, okay, there needs to be real experimental evidence. If Rick Strassman has good evidence, the question is, why isn't it being accepted? That is a good question, David. The answer is, what do you say? It requires another conspiracy. That's the problem. That's another problem. Well, maybe it does require a conspiracy to a certain extent, and that conspiracy, I believe, is real. I've talked. I think you should watch my review of The Discovery. I go into it a bit more there. But it's not just it's not just the conspiracy. It's many people are kind of like many of the people his colleagues there's a cultural tidal set against it, basically. That's another reason. It's just not in the culture, So, but that's a good question, David. That's a good question. 73, nothing as it seems. I thought the mission to the moon was, in part, meant to be a scientific endeavor to learn of cosmic disasters of the past. I think they're going. The plan is they're going to do that. I think there is a plan to do that. I think. And nothing says either Copernicus was right or he wasn't. Copernicus. Was he the guy who said the sun is the center of the universe? Because one of them, I think, was Galileo who said it. Copernicus said the Earth was the center, and Galileo said no, the sun was the center. The Earth is just another planet. And Copernicus says, don't be ridiculous. The Earth can't be a planet. The Earth is like at the center of everything, and everything goes around it. It's that kind of thing. Because Galileo then explained, look, the way the planets appear to move randomly around the sky. Well, it's not random. If you assume that the Earth is just another planet, it's not random. It all fits. The Tycho's diagnosis. I think that's Tycho Brahe, the guy with the golden nose. Yeah. He diagnoses a more likely structure to our solar system, a binary, existing between the Sun and Mars, with our spherical Earth, in brackets, exclamation mark, near the barycenter, Brahe 2.0. I'm not sure what you mean by that. I'll have to look into more on what Tycho Brahe said. But I believe the solar system is basically, it's called a solar system because it's all centered around the sun. And the planets orbit the sun, including the Earth, which is a planet. Yeah. Gary says in 73, Ben, mate, in regards to these ayahuasca horror stories that keep appearing in the mainstream media, I'm told it's most likely a result of people taking what is known as ayahuasca dark, which is intended for shamans as part of, that's the end of an hour, as part of their spiritual development, and should never be taken by regular folks, as it takes you to very dark places. I can only assume that the people who are organising the event in which it's being administered don't know what they're doing, or I dare say Maybe they're part of the conspiracy to make people scared of it. It's definitely true. Just kidding, but it's possible. It is indeed, Gary. As I said, that the solution is to never even attempt to go to an ayahuasca workshop before very, very carefully studying the subject in advance. And hour number 1 is out the way. Okay, guys, on to hour number 2 now. I'm not using the timer for this one because I don't know exactly how. Basically, I'm going to get a phone call or someone's going to come to the door. Then I've got things to do, so I'm just going to basically stop. I'll do a pause when that happens and then carry on afterwards. I don't know how long this segment's going to be. Okay, so 73, Gary Robinson says here. So second hour, there we are. Okay. I'm a big fan of Mark Devlin, but I am skeptical about his claims that frequencies within electronic music have an effect on people. I've always wanted to talk to him about that. Well, he's approachable. You can email him, Gary. He's tell him you know me, and he knows me. So I've always wanted to talk. Right, I spend pretty much all day, every day, writing and producing drum and bass, future bass, and synthwave, etc. And I work exclusively with wavetable synthesizers, which create extremely complex waveforms from multiple oscillators, doing really complex things to each of the oscillators in order to generate interesting and unique sounds that are needed for electronic music. There's also a sub-bass element, which is needed for most genres as well. Mark claims there is something in the production of these elements that can affect people, but I'm not sure. Mark also is like a big musical guy like you are, and you can have a good talk to him about that. I'm very familiar with people who develop these synthesizers and samples, and I know that they don't have these kinds of agendas. They are simply looking to advance music production technology. There are melodies and chords that can affect people, though. Yeah, Adorno talks about that, and it goes back much further to the Knights Templar and stuff like that. That is well documented, but the whole issue of hiding frequencies, which is often discussed, is very misunderstood. Yeah, I mean, there's a basic thing like there's music played in a major key sounds very different to you could have something played in a major key. It's very interesting, actually. There's some AIs which actually will transform certain well-known songs from a major to a minor key or from a minor to a major key. And that completely changed the feel of the song. A minor key tends to sound sadder. You had sad. People say a sad song is usually in a minor key, and a happy song's in a major key. Things like that. Even if it were there, what would happen to it when it's layered with other elements in the song? Music is put together by cutting and boosting different frequencies from different layers depending on what they need for each sound. You really have to understand mixing and production on a day-to-day level to understand why hiding these rogue frequencies isn't really possible. Another thing to debunk the theory is that I'd spend a lot of time looking at my music and other people's music in frequency analyzers, and I can tell you there's nothing in those tunes that shouldn't be there. Would love to discuss this in detail with Mark. I'm with him on the rest of his work, just not the hidden frequency thing. Cheers. Well, get in touch, Gary. He'd be interested talking to someone on his level, actually, because he's, as a lifelong DJ, he understands music as well, very well indeed. I know you understand sound analysis because well, there's going to be an update on the EVP situation, and Gary has been instrumental in helping me with that. Happy Christmas 2019. Oh, my goodness. This is an old one. You look great in that hat, says Crafty. Yeah, that was a present from Sophie the Porter's poet, and I really like it. I still wear it at Christmas. We have here, there's a long, we have here 73. And we have here someone saying, what's this? Geddes. All right, this is addressed to Neil Geddes Ward by Max Q, who says Geddes fraud. That's don't call people that, Max. I mean, I know luckily Neil will stand up to you. If he wouldn't, I'd delete that comment if he wasn't going to. An expert in video editing, laugh emoji. Anyone who believes that hasn't seen much YouTube content. What? Hasn't seen much YouTube content where the creator makes an effort to make it look nice. I've seen your editing skills, Jones. No wonder you hold him in high esteem. What's wrong with that? He's better at it than me. I've never pretended to be an ace editor, Max. Or should I call you Q if you're going to call me Jones? Geddes fraud just uses presets that impress people like you. What's wrong with being impressed by that? Have a look around YouTube, and there's an untold amount of content creators that produce better edited, more highly polished, pleasing to the eye and ear videos than anything Geddes fraud puts out. I know, Max, and they're all about makeup tutorials and unboxing and little cats and things like that, and establishment news programs. I think, you see, I don't look at the wood for the trees, Max. I'm interested in content, in intellectual content, not necessarily technical creativity. I must admit, when it comes to technical creativity, I score low on my videos, and that's intentional. That's my choice I made. None of these makes a song and dance about it. None of them claim to be experts or anything special. It's just normal, everyday stuff almost anyone can do. I'm bringing this up because Geddes fraud does think it's a skill. It's difficult, and most of his answers regarding content of videos runs along the lines of, quote, so you make a video, unquote, blah, blah, blah. It's his get out, I make videos you don't, therefore I must be superior and right. He doesn't even focus on the content. It's always about how he's expert in editing and so on and so forth. Well, that's not my experience of dealing with Neil. If you look at the things he talks about, he does have he does focus on issues, on information, dialogue, things like that. And Neil himself, I'm glad to say, if you hadn't replied to Max Q, I would have deleted his comment. You do spout your own verbal sewer spew. I'm not claiming to be an expert in video editing, but I do it, but I never claim to be the best. Perhaps you would be jovial enough to put some links to your own creations here. Point proven, says Max Q. Neil says, you need to rest your head too. It's getting too big. Ben, I see Max wants mumbling back on Apollo Detectives. Well, I think Mr. Max should come on. He has a lot to say. Almost got a full channel of content too. I'd be against that, Neil. I'd be totally against that. Max says to Neil, thanks, fraud. You've proved my point yet again. And that's Miss Maxine Kiao, if you don't mind. I'd be happy to come on. Oh, God. Max says to Neil, you know what? I'll even give you a list of the points I'm going to bring up prior to my appearance. Here's a couple. One, how come the defectives never claimed transmitter power would prevent communications with the Apollo spacecraft? They haven't done blah-de-blah. Yes, I've done that one. Why do defectives claim blah-de-blah ionosphere? Okay, there's two different things the defectives claim. If you can prove either, nothing more need be said. Apollo must have been a hoax. All right, I put 2 timestamps on here, so I'm just going to delete one of them. There we go. Okay. And here we go. 73. Ben, mate, if you can send me the audio clip, that would be great. And all right, this is to do with the EVP. And I have a text conversation with Gary, and we did get together, and Gary has done some work on the EVP, which will all be revealed in a future video, or I may just be a HPANWO Voice article. Oh, right, here we go. Big Billy Paws. Big Billy Bores. Sorry, not Paws. I thought it was Big Billy Bores. That sounds like a Scottish person with Prader-Willi syndrome who can't stop eating. Big Billy Paws. I'm a fat bastard and I can't stop eating. Hello, Ben. My last word on the saga of Parks. Quite simply, I do not like being lied to. Like most decent people, watching his content over many years, it's not been hard to see him regurgitating other people's stories, telling obvious porcupines and jumping on popular trends to reasons only known to him. To quote Elon Musk in his debate with his BBC journalist, do you have an example? We are never going to agree on this, which is fair enough. Okay, fair enough indeed. But I do believe that the so-called truth movement, especially online in all forms, aliens, UFO, cryptids, supernatural, flat earth, mud flood, false flag pandemics, certain saviors of the alphabet and the rest have been totally corrupted by the dark empire sitting in dark warehouses filled with dark-souled personnel at their computer stations, which I assume are dark, particularly in this country, the USA, and a certain occupied Middle Eastern country whose sole job is to corrupt certain people. And the narrative of the subjects named above. To be honest, I don't really trust anyone anymore, even if I feel the info as possible. Well, I've talked before about how there's this it all seems to be very extreme. Big Billy Bores. Could it, because people say that about someone who just disagrees with them. Look at Richard D. Hall. I mean, he's now bifurcated. I should say bifurcated. He's picked about 4 people out of the entire truth movement as in any way sufficient, and everyone else just he has turned his back on and he just turns his ass at them and just says that you're all useless. And he's paid a heavy price for that, I'll tell you. Been interested in all subjects since the mid-90s, but I'm getting fed up with a lot of info being pumped out these days, which is clearly agenda-driven. That's my rant over. Don't agree with everything you say, but I do enjoy your videos. Take it easy, man. Well, thanks, Big Billy Bores. I appreciate that. I'm glad you do. And we're not. You're right. We're not going to agree on this. Charles Scott, I demand an apology. Right, email me, Charles. I'm not going to discuss this with you in a public forum anymore. Just email me. You have my email address. We have emailed each other before. Oh, we have Charles Scott. Oh, God, what's this now? Charles Scott is now saying, what's this? As I said, I'm willing to, if you say something original, I'm going to read it out. Should be obvious to your YouTube viewers, strategically skipping over to avoid apologizing. Email me, Charles. I will apologize to you privately if I owe you one. I want an apology for skipping my comments. No, not if I've skipped. Not if I've skipped any of the things you keep ranting on about. Okay, I'm not going to skip anything original you say. If I do, let me know what it is, and I'll address it. Like I say, contact me privately, and I'll apologize, and I'll address it in a future video. I'm confident you pretend to make the silly mistake that bloody blah. That you were abusive to Cornelius Crew by saying attention whore and dismissive drivel. No, he said that to me. You attempt to convince your YouTube viewers you are not strategically cherry-picking my comment. I am strategically cherry-picking your comments, Charles, because I don't want to discuss certain subjects with you because you just won't shut up about them. It's almost a year now, for goodness sake, let it go. It's just, I just don't get it why it's necessary to. Why it's necessary to do this. Why is it necessary? Let's just check. What's the settings say? Audio seems to be working all right. Yeah, just all right. I don't understand why you can't just let this go, Charles. I really don't. You falsely claimed I said Cornelius Crew's equivalent of wallflower. I may have used that term to describe him based on what you said. I didn't. That's not a quote from you. Miles Johnston did lambaste you for repeatedly giving out false information, and you professed to some of this by agreeing with him after he amended your false information. Or I don't remember I don't know exactly what case you're talking about here. Max Q says, people are waking up to him, Charles. There are far more comments like yours above than have been since I started watching some of his videos. Oh, finally, we're waking up to what an evil person, rotten old rotter I am. Yes. Max Q says to Charles, he called me a bastard for exposing his deception regarding NASA, asking people not to go close to the 2 Apollo landing sites. I would not call you that for that reason, Max. If I called you a bastard, it was for something else. I've had aggressive treatment from Ben too, says Charles. Several others as well have proved him wrong with valid facts and get treated in the same manner. Gradually, more of his friends and family, fellow colleagues, and other YouTube viewers will wake up to his inexcusable, noxious character and realize Ben is not the erudite they think he is. Max Q. Like the last... I'm deleting that. One more comment like that, Max, and I'm blocking you. He was going to say something about Sewer Stain. And Charles goes on about OLM again. Charles Scott says to Max Q, perhaps his lack of... All right, Max Q is then... Now Charles is jumping on the bandwagon there. I'm removing that comment too. Who are you, Max? Who are you? You're starting to sound worryingly familiar. Anyway, you better, both of you, Charles and Max, better keep a civil tongue in your head from now on. I don't mind. I can take robust criticism, but you cross that line and you're out on your ass. You understand? All right. So 73. The lights were low. 46:38. This is the lights were low. Has left me a timestamp here. The big tanks they get on their back. He invented that. I think I'm talking about Jacques Cousteau. Jacques Cousteau, yeah. He was also an author and film director, which is probably what Jack refers to. Oh, right, I see. Thank you. Thanks. I see what you mean. Right. The lights were low says 47:31. I can't stop laughing. What's this? This is in 73. He doesn't look like me. He's gay, and I'm not, or at least I won't be as long as I don't watch Dr. Stephen Greer again.
All right.
And he's a normie. He's a complete normie. I'm talking about my brother there. I'm glad you found that funny. Yeah. Crabty Drive says on 73, prick up your ears or prick up your rears. Yeah, apparently there is a kind of double entendre, and that was chosen deliberately by the filmmakers, because it is, of course, a story about homosexual men, including this famous and very terrible situation with Joe Orden and his partner Ken Halliwell. I think, as you said, Halliwell beat him to death and then committed suicide, poisoned himself. Very, very horrible thing. They had a domestic argument that got out of hand, and it ended up with the death of both of them. John Nolan says on 73, Nixon had a speech made up if the moon mission failed. Why do that if the moon landing was fake? Well, because it's possible he wasn't read into it. He wasn't a part of the inner sanctum that dealt with that kind of thing. And then, of course, many other people were also not involved in the cover-up, which means they would also have had to, things would have to appear real to them. Charles Scott, I hope you're going to be more polite now, because if you're not, now this is on what videos? This is a long comment here on 73. Max Q has repeated a comment they put several times before. So you knew how Nixon made the call to the moon, yet you asked mumbling twice. He didn't answer, still preoccupied with something else. Yeah, right, I believe you. What? I've seen people claim it was impossible because there are no wires to the moon. I'm not a BS artist here. You are. See my next paragraph. What? I never said wires. I never said that wires are necessary. I know radio telephones exist. I know NASA have asked people to stay 75 to 200 meters away from the Apollo 2 landing site. Yes, I know that too, and that's what I said, Max. But there's nothing like what you claimed. No, it's not. That's exactly what I did claim. You said all sites 2 miles away. Oh, right, 2 miles. Right, I thought it was. That is true. I thought it was 2 miles. US had claimed it as US territory, etc. No, no. There's no need to keep going on. Right, you're flogging a dead horse now. I already explained. I already corrected myself on that, Max. Okay, you now say a huge amount of rhetoric, which I'm not going to read out. Basically saying I skipped it to say face. No, I didn't. I corrected myself, Max. I wouldn't correct myself if I wanted to say face. I said that they were claiming it as territory. It turns out, no, that's not exactly true. Okay. You said that's not exactly. I said that's not. You said that's not exactly true, and then I corrected myself. Okay. I spent time answering the questions you brought up regarding the previous post by myself about EME satellites, etc. It was purposely written in a non-technical way a 10-year-old could understand. You skipped it a lot, claiming I had purposely written it in a technical way so you couldn't understand. Well, I didn't understand it. I might have skipped some of the details, yes. I know a 10-year-old who could understand it because 10-year-olds have passed exams in the point I covered, taught to me by our old radio club. No wonder Henderson can fool you with his rubbish. You're completely clueless. I posted Mr. Douglas Arnold and Mr. Jan Lundberg did not say the things you claim. Then you come back with different things they actually did say. Well, Max, I have watched What Happened on the Moon several times now, and I've also given you the timestamp for Arnold's statement. You respond with, why do you need a timestamp if you watched the film? Because they never said what was originally claimed. And have now changed to the things they did say. All right. Well, I've now given you a timestamp, okay, so you can find it out. New title for your next comments reply video. Reply to comments unless they expose me as a liar and prove me wrong, in which case skip over them, lie, and don't read them all out. All right. Well, I don't think that'll fit in the title box for YouTube, you know. Okay, and he repeats this amateur radio ham thing in the same comment here. Charles Scott says, okay, I'm not going to read that, Charles. David Smith says to Charles, I get what you're saying, but I don't think jumping to mental illness is fair here. Ben does seem like a very down-to-earth, reasonable guy on other things, just not when it comes to conspiracies and the paranormal. Oh, we're making progress. Well, thank you, David. It's not like you to defend me, so appreciate that. This isn't something that can only be seen on these subjects either. We see it in religion, even personal relationships where people might really believe their partner loves them despite ignoring them or treating them badly, etc. It's like compartmentalization. Even scientists do it. Especially scientists do it, David. And you're right. This actually explains a lot of what we were talking about with David earlier when it comes to ayahuasca. The fact that when we're inside a cult, or indeed, if we're people in a bad relationship often don't realize that they're in a bad relationship. People, their friends and family outside the relationship see it before they do. I've been in this situation myself. And it's rather like that, I think, with, why is Rick Strassman's views not accepted? I said, talking to David, I mean you, of course. Yeah, you're the person I'm talking to. Despite disagreeing with him on almost everything paranormal and conspiratorial, I do think if good evidence does come to light, Ben will be one of the first to get onto it. Well, thank you, David. Much appreciated. Oh, dear. There's Charles saying mental illness. OLM 2022, dressed as David. Oh, let it go. Chris Evers delayed response invoice. Blah, blah, blah. It's almost a year, Charles. It's almost a bloody year. Get over it. And David says to Charles, it could just be his bias, though, Charles. We all suffer from it sometimes. The whole David Jones saga seems to me Ben just having a bit of fun. I don't think he misreads or understands comments on purpose. I doubt any good doctor would be willing to diagnose someone from eye movements or their YouTube channel. Thank you, David. You know, I don't deliberately misread or I don't misrepresent. I don't try to misrepresent comments, despite what these people are saying. I go to a lot of effort to read out people's comments, even very long ones, with a few exceptions like Charles's continuous rehashing of the same points over and over again. You know, for example, Max Q, I read out all of his comments. And Charles replies, she had overall the evidence against Ben regarding, OLM. Supporting screenshot, graphics software, ticket invoice, OLM banned. All right, the whole David Jones thing was a bit of fun in a way. All right, so David, it was just a bit of fun, but there was a serious point behind it, which was, as I explained in the video, I was banned from the first one, and I sensed that I wasn't going to be welcome at this second one. At least, I mean, I didn't actually confront the organizer directly. Maybe I should have done. Just look, am I banned or not? Just tell me straight. But instead, I decided probably on the balance it would. If I did, it could be. He may have thought I'd have given up on the matter, especially seeing as I actually spread some disinformation that I was going to be somewhere else that weekend. And of course, I turn up as David Jones, and the rest is history. And it was a bit of fun, but it was a serious. I wanted to make a serious point, and I made it. I succeeded. And indeed, I'm thinking of doing a live stream about this, as I explained. I've actually I put a community notice up, which has been, normally these only get like a handful of comments. This one's had several dozens. So yeah. So Charles Scott, final comment on this thread. Overall, all evidence was against Ben regarding OLM. Right, that's the end of that thread. Okay, back we go. And we have another thread here. This is 73. Max Q says here, Henderson must have been like a dog with two dicks in a street full of fire hydrants when he saw that diagram of radio waves bouncing off the ionosphere. So excited, he sent it to Alan as proof. Apollo communications must be impossible, and brought it up with mumbling. This shows he didn't bother to do any research. Completely utterly clueless. As someone rightly said, he fell at the first hurdle, destroyed by mumbling in minutes. No, he didn't. Steve hardly let him get a word in edgeways, and Steve, after with all the rhetoric, he only actually got 2 points out, as I explained. Around 10 or 12 hours for someone who has a functioning brain, blah de blah. Read all PDFs. Now, I expect Jones to question the validity of the information required to get a technician license. As he asked, what if I got a license and still agreed with Scott? It's not up for debate, Jones. It's tried and tested. Fact used by millions of everyday people every day. All right, not up for debate. Now I hear Henderson has conceded that some radio waves pass through the ionosphere and VABs. That's right. Oh, excuse me. You never know if Henderson lives to be 200. He might be ready for his first ham radio. Oh. Rhetoric. Steve mumbling is finally jumped in now. PMSL. Really, he conceded something. Amazing. Now all he needs to concede is the Apollo 17 flag was faded due to being hung on the wall of mission control and strip lights for years. And each mission involved the lunar rover used its own vehicle, that the effectives tested the wrong film under the wrong conditions. Not true, Steve. That the LEM batteries were capable of 65 kilowatts per hour and were custom made by a company that specialized in making batteries for spacecraft. That Van Allen was right about radiation belts that were named after him. Depends on which selective quote you mean. Maybe you just concede all the Apollo missions happened exactly as the history books tell us. That would be far simpler. Well, I don't think so. I don't think so, mate. Steve, not at all. Max Q, I guess he realized some people wouldn't actually bother to find out, blah, blah. You're star of the show in the new video of the Apollo Detectives channel. I'm having a listen while having lunch. Yay. Apparently, says Max to Steve, he concedes on HPANWO radio, as Alan calls it. He didn't mean it, he just calls it that, yeah, but he doesn't mean it's woo-woo. I haven't yet listened to it yet. Too busy working on what Getty's Fraud calls the impossible. The cook, pun intended, is on at 46.33. No doubt it's another BS reason why Apollo Communications wouldn't work. Sorry, I can't provide a link. YouTube deletes if I do. Okay, well, I don't know obviously I don't know what you mean, but it's true. It isn't deleted, it just goes to the spam folder. Steve says, I'll check it out later if I have time. Thanks, Max. There we go. Now I've heard it now. Henderson still doesn't get it. He's talking about the pulsated laser beams the Chinese use on Chang'e 1. Also on Chang'e. I guess satellite TV is still witchcraft to him. As an aside, Ben, if you keep agreeing with Henderson, you'll become a complete lol, and you thought you knew what was coming. A space exploration denying creationists, flat earthers. Think about it. Well, I'm not a flat earther. I'll go into creationism another time. I don't deny space exploration. I just deny some of them. He's leading you down that path and you don't even know it. Really? Well, if I become a flat earther, you'll be able to say, told you so, Ben, but I haven't yet, have I? What if I don't in 10 years' time? What are you going to say then, Max? Barry T says to Max Q, someone new at last. Ben keeps saying they got Steve with the photo argument, but Steve basically declined to comment. Then Ben says in his reply video he doesn't know, but it doesn't mean he's wrong. Like, WTF, double standard much? Oh. Well, you know, we can top these things up and maybe we can have like a scoreboard or something, Barry, because both sides are doing it in this debate. Max Q says, a liar needs good memory, and going on how many times Jones says, did I say that? I can't remember. He hasn't got one. Or maybe, I just don't focus so intensely as these things as you do. Because you do focus very intensely on these things. Right. So, okay, guys, I'm just going to go through some comments that were posted on the live stream notice of one of the live streams recently. It's actually the Trump one I did. Mr. Grey Owl says, "What a great speech and display of resolve from my man, the T-Dog." Yeah, he was one of the best he's ever done. I'm reminded of how inspiring it is to have an individual such as the aforementioned addressing the public with relevance, awareness, and determination to restore the principles of self-determination and individual freedom. I'm reminded again what it feels like to have an underlying notion of hope. Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I'm not American, Matt, but my thoughts exactly. My thoughts exactly. Tricky Woo said, "Hope to see you all then." Mr. Grey Owl says, "And thank you to Benno callsign HPANWO Echo." What Benno callsign HPANWO Echo 1 for providing the construct within which issues of great importance can be discussed and evaluated. Looking out, brah, 9 p.m. British feudal time. Let's see. Yes, that makes it 4 p.m. here in the Socialist Republic of Canada. It is a Socialist Republic of Canada, isn't it? Rick Horton says, "They're coming after you. I'm standing. They're coming after you, and I'm just standing in their way." Exactly. Keith Smith says, "Ben, are you going to protest again in support of Trump? If necessary, yes." And Steve Mumbling says here, "If the orange half-wit gets back into the White House and the Ukraine war is still raging, you can kiss your ass goodbye. We all can. It'll be the end of civilization as we know it." No, Steve, it won't. It'll be the saving of civilizations we know it if he gets back into the White House. So, guys, where are we now? Yep, okay. We now have we have Max Q again. "Ben, in an Apollo Detectives video I watched last week, you made a very interesting comment." Is that interesting as in, you know what? The usual uninformed bunch. We're talking about the Falcon Heavy test launch where SpaceX put Elon's Tesla Roadster into space. Someone brought up the tires and questioned why they didn't explode in space being pressurized. Were they pressurized? I don't know. I mean, I didn't see him take the car to the garage and did he take the car to the garage before he put it up in space and just charge the tires? I don't know if they are or not. Anyway, the possibility of the tires being flat was mentioned. My question is, why did you say they looked all right when they were driven to the launch pad? When it was driven to the launch pad. Cue Ben's typical response when caught out. Did I say that? I don't remember saying it. No, I don't remember saying that. But there's an obvious problem there, which is you could have got the car to the launch pad and then let the tires down, possibly drill a little hole in them, just to let the so that the pressure would equalize as the rocket ascended. You never saw it drive to the launch pad. That never happened. So why did you feel the need to make that up? I don't know what you're talking about there. I don't know I've just said what I need to say on that. The Roadster was mounted on the rocket's second stage inside the fairings long before the stack ever saw the light of day. As an answer, although you won't understand or believe it, the sea level air pressure is around 14.7 pounds per square inch. Eliminating that pressure would be the equivalent of increasing pressure in the tires by 14 psi. Cars are typically around 32 to 35 psi. Increasing that by 14.7 psi is not a problem. That's to say, if the tires were pressurized, they didn't have to be, as the car wasn't driven to the pad as you falsely claim you saw. The tires on the STS didn't explode as they were not stored under pressure. Right, that's the space shuttle. So be it. So be it. Max Q said, "Plucked from the sea of many, here's another." I've yet to get an answer from the defectives. If it's so difficult to take a photograph wearing gloves which compromise part of a spacesuit, how come the astronauts on the IS were able to construct the ISS? I've seen astronauts training for EVAs. They use some remarkable pre-learned techniques to use tools such as socket wrenches, which would be simple on Earth, but not so in space. All right. Q Jones, the gloves are different. Take a look at the ISS spacewalks for yourself, people. Well, I didn't say that. And Q is actually spelled C-U-E, not Q-U-E in this context. Also, there's all the tools are the same, are they? Including the, can you operate tweezers with those particular gloves, Max? Dark Corners UK say on confronting droid. This is an oldie goldie, this one. Hey Ben, I heard you talking about this video in recent comments reply video, and I had to check it out for myself. Yeah, in the Dark Corners. It's an absolute classic if you've never seen it. It's really what I should have done years before. Yeah, confronting Droik, which is what it says it is, although in the end there wasn't any confrontation. Max Q says here on Apollo Detectives 12, SpaceX Starship QFT orbital flight test animation by Ryan Space. Okay, we have here a video of some description. Right, so let the ads get out the way. This is all animation. Oh yeah. Don't need the music in the background. All right. It's a bit long. This is 19 minutes. I can't see it all. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right. We may see this actually happen for real. And there it goes. Very impressive. That's good animation, actually. This is the thing that apparently is going to get Elon to Mars. It's coming. That's the ascent stage landing again. Okay, it comes back down, doesn't it? Yeah. Very grand. Yes, I'm sure. Yes, very, very good. Okay, thank you for that. Okay. Jam Noise 73. The Sweet video is still on my channel, bro. I didn't hear it at the time of filming. Only once I played it back on my phone. All right, so where Jam Noise hears a mysterious laugh break out, she can't find a source from. It's a bit like EVP. Mr. Greyhouse says on 73. An awesome start screen, Benno. You made it, mate, didn't you? Not to mention the intellectual and thoughtful responses to your friends, critics, and contemporaries. People, as you so respectfully refer to those who engage in the wonderful and stimulating world of HPANWO TV. Good looking out, brah. Thanks, Matt. Much appreciated. Stephen Doherty says on Apollo Detectives 12, mumbling sure does do a lot of mumbling. What an asshole. I wouldn't get tired something that bastard. Yeah. I'm not going to read that out completely, and I know you don't mean it literally, but it was exhausting actually having him on there, and I was against the whole concept of having Steve mumbling on the show. I really was. It was basically literally the others, including Colin Sugrin, who didn't mind. 73, David Smith. Disney aren't doing anything to kids, Ben. Yes, they are. At least no more at any other company trying to extract profits from children. No, that's not true, David. This is scaremongering conspiracy. There's this scaremongering conspiracy about them doing what exactly? Forcing kids to go trans by adding characters in movies? Come on, this is flat Earth level stuff here. No, David, we've talked about it. It's confusing them. It's twisting their minds. It's not forcing them to do things. It's making them question themselves, breaking down relationships between themselves and others and their family. It's standard fifth columnist techniques. Making light of children that do have issues doesn't suit you, Ben. What? I don't make light of children that have issues. I said that it should be that they and their families should get together and help each other. I know you're more caring and compassionate. Sorry, I meant woke than that. Disney aren't going to be arranging doctor visits or surgeries for trans kids. Well, they're creating images that normalize states of mind which could lead to those things, David. They're simply showing these kids that it's okay if you have these feelings. I think they're doing more than that. It might encourage them, some of them, to talk to their families or other carers that can give them help or advice in taking the matter further. And that doesn't equate to doctors telling kids they are trans either. This is all conspiracy nonsense. No, Max. This is something that no one except family should be involved in. I don't think it's up to a media company any more than it's up to a teacher or anyone else to go to take children and say, you should be saying this to your family, you should be saying that to your family. It's diminishing one of the key elements of modernism and postmodernism is the destruction of family bonds and family ties, and this is doing that. This is essentially they're essentially trying to replace those relationships with the children, between the children and their family. They're trying to replace those relationships with themselves, put themselves in as the parent. It's not unlike George Orwell saying, there'll be no love except love of Big Brother. Other forms of love, such as patriotism, love of your country, love of your community, love between yourself and your parents, love between yourself and your children, love between yourself and your partner, those things will be outlawed. They'll just be a single relationship in society, that between the individual and the state. And it's not conspiracy nonsense. I think they're doing this. It's actually almost the opposite. Doctors quite often deny people are trans. They deny them treatment, drugs, and surgery. Well, I don't want to come up with, I can't think of any examples right now. I don't think that's the case. Having talked to Claire Ray Randall, I think it's a very, very different matter. Then they have to deal with the cretins who think it's the end of the world if one of them uses the same toilet. Well, I think it's only a problem if some big hairy bloke goes into the ladies' toilets and hangs around in there. Then yeah, I think that's a problem. It would be laughable if it weren't actually causing real suffering to many in the community. Trans people are very often some of the most mentally delicate people in society, but I believe these problems are not caused by just other people and their attitudes. I think it's in a sense. Oh, I don't want to go into details. I talked more about this with Claire. All right, I did 2 interviews with Claire Ray Randall. I suggest you watch those. Bringing up historical gay laws, etc., wasn't whataboutism. Well, it was a bit, David, because you're essentially saying, well, look what happened in the past. Look how it was unacceptable to be gay for so many centuries in this country, and that's true. So that's, you say, it was pointing out that despite the propaganda and punishments for being gay, people still were. Well, some people will be, always. That's inevitable. I think it's 5% or something. And that's always going to be the case. But so it is kind of whataboutery. They just had a greater chance of causing them suffering. The same situation is now happening, but it's with trans people. Well, how many people really are trans, though? I mean, Claire made this point, when she did her transition in the 80s, and she explained, that back then it was a very, very small minority of people. It was really very few. Now it's suddenly expanded into dozens and dozens of times as many. Now, why is that? It doesn't make sense if this was something that emerged naturally from people. Do watch my interview with Claire Ray Randall, David, if you can. Weird Weekend North 2023, Mark Porrett. I hope you had a nice time, Ben. And I'd like to see you out and about on adventures. Awesome guy that you are. Thanks, Mark. Much appreciated. Be the Truth said, I have to agree with you there, Mark. Oh, thanks. Highway Star, me too. Thanks, guys. Mark Porrett said to Highway Star, hey there, Highway Star, NTMU. Don't know what that actually means, NTMU. By the way, love your pic. All right. He looks a bit like me, doesn't he? He does look like me. Yeah, he sort of, he's kind of does look slightly like me. What does NTMU mean? I'll just look it up. Oh, NTMU. It's nice to meet you. All right, that explains it. Thank you. I don't know all these little initials. Maybe I'm just of that generation. Same video. Stephen Truthseeker. Hello, Stephen. How you doing? Jehovah's Witness, Mormon, Scientology, all satanic cults at the core. Well, I think that's a complicated business. So I think, yeah, I mean, certainly Scientology is a really, really astroturfed kind of religion. I don't know about the other two. I don't know much about. Well, even though I know someone who used to be a Jehovah's Witness, I don't know much about them altogether. Stephen says, I'm seeing spirit orbs in the conference hall. All right. I never noticed that myself, Stephen, but possibly they're there. Oh, orbs. Right. Stephen has now put in a timestamp on Weird Weekend North. Let's have a look. Oh, and there's... Hey, guys. Well, I'm here at the conference. Still, the afternoon session is over. We have Richard Freeman talking about his search for the Orang deck. Let's try your other one. Large blue orb flies across the camera. Let's have a look. Oh, yeah. Okay, it's coming out now. I got everything. I'll just show it to you guys. Here we go. Here we go. 5440. There we are. See, yeah, I saw that too. Now, I got everything mixed up. It was actually a lot earlier than I thought it was. Right. And it wasn't. I saw it, Stephen. Yeah. Now that could be some kind of dust mote or something. I can't prove that, or it could be something more. It's hard to say from that image exactly what it was. Stephen says the owl is the symbol of the Illuminati. Beware. Okay, Mr. Grey Owl. We all know it now, don't we, Matt? Yeah. Stephen says on the same video, I've lived in a house in the Wirral that was owned by Mormons before we moved in 1979. I believe they target myself and my family by opening up portals in the house and shed and did magic spells on me because I found the spell jars in the shed. Oh, God. I'm sorry to hear that, Stephen. I mean, the spell jars sound very much like what that, I forgot his name now, was talking about in the video. They're finding these witch bottles embedded in the wall. Yeah. Opening up portals in the house, yeah. And you found the spell jars. It may not have been the Mormons though, Stephen. It may have been somebody. It may have been many, many years before, because you mentioned 1979. I got a feeling this is far, far older. Was the house an old one? Weird Weekend North, Stephen. The owl is the symbol of Sheffield Wednesday Football Club, and their ground is Hillsborough. I went to that game and nearly got crushed to death myself. You were at Hillsborough? Oh my God! And Clockbite says YNWA. Oh, more initials. I thought it was Gay Meadow with Sheffield Wednesday. Forums. Oh yeah, Liverpool. This is oh right, yes, YNWA. What does the meaning of YNWA? You'll never walk alone, right? Oh, I see. This is the Liverpool Football Club fans forum, right? That's what he meant. He means you'll never walk alone. Yeah. But it was Sheffield Wednesday at Hillsborough. I thought they had a place called Gay Meadow. I don't know. Anyway, I believe you. I mean, I don't deny it, mate. Well, I'm glad you're all right and you didn't get killed or injured by that terrible event. Weird Weekend North. Dark Corners UK says on Weird Weekend North, Ben, mate, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I absolutely love your reportage videos. Thanks for taking us on the journey with you. Oh, you're very welcome, Dark Corners. I hope you're going on other journeys very, very soon indeed. Weird Weekend North, Helen Tucker says, yes, those twins were a fascinating event. Watch Richard D. Hall's documentary about it. Great Weird Weekend. Thanks, Helen. Yeah, I was watching his interview with David McCann, actually, just yesterday, because it sort of came up into my head again. I actually went to Bedtime Stories and I suggested they do a video about it because that would be just up their street. That's of course Sabina and Ursula Eriksson were talking about the crazy Swedish twins and the horrible things that happened associated with them. You know, one was put in hospital, the other killed a guy. You know, it's really awful. Weird Weekend North. Keith Smith. Is there any reason you didn't speak again? Maybe your theories are too weird for the Weird Weekend. P.S. The laws are strict about graves in the West due to grave robbers in the 18th and 19th century. Yeah, Keith. In fact, Brian Allen revealed that they used to put people in cast iron coffins which were riveted to prevent grave robbery. And Brian thinks it may have been aliens doing it. Is there any reason I didn't speak again? I don't know. There are several people who've only spoken once. I mean, were my theories too weird? I don't think so. I thought my talk about Helen Duncan actually went down very well at Weird Weekend North. So, yeah, I don't think there was I don't think it was actually a problem. There's an official video of it, by the way. The actual soundtrack is missing for some of it, but it is there. Yeah. So, I mean, if Glenn wants me to speak again, I'll be glad to. Okay, Weird Weekend North 2023. I've got something called Third Doctor. Third Doctor. Yes, he's a John Pertwee fan. Orang Pendek seems to be a ground-dwelling orangutan, a great ape. It is Orang Cardil, that may be a close relation of Homo floresiensis. Cheers, Rich. Oh, right. Well, Richard does say it is some kind of ground-dwelling ape, yes. And now that is extremely rare, especially one that, well, we only know of one primate that actually is a ground dweller that walks upright, as ground-dwelling apes used to, and that's you see one looking in the mirror. This could be another one. You see, this could be a different one. Now, Homo floresiensis is something different. It's something much more humanoid. The Orang Pendek appears to be something more simian. But you could ask what you say. Cheers, Rich. So Third Doctor is mentioning Richard Freeman there. Yeah. Neil Geddes Ward says, and Neil Peel, the Paranormal Peep Show, says, shame about the wet departure, Ben. Hope you enjoyed it. I did, thanks, mate. I did. We did get a bit of nice weather there. Lurvish says on Weird Weekend North, support the New World Order. Oh, my goodness me. Yeah, I suppose you're going to start a group called Hospital Porters for the New World Order, are you? Woody Black says, hey, Woody Black, how you doing? Weird Weekend North. Must be more than 20 years ago since I last used paper A to Z. Always had one in the car before the sat-navs came out. Yeah, not many people use them now. I mean, I do. Firstly, I'm nostalgic. Secondly, you know, if your phone goes wrong or something, you can still rely on these things. This is why we should maintain this old technology. It's not dependent on, you know, networks and electronics and stuff like that. You know, one solar flare. You know, and they paper A to Z. You'll need your paper A to Z if there's a solar flare. Apollo Detectives 12. Steve Mumbling special. Max Q says, it might not prove Apollo, Link, but it's sure going to prove their defectives aren't space experts. They're completely clueless, as if anyone needed proof. What's this here? This is Artemis 2, meet the astronauts that will fly around the moon. Now, this is odd because this came up, didn't it, in the recent live stream? I'll just show it to you. This is, I think, another example of the kind of artistic showmanship. You see, here they are. Oh my God, they look scary. Didn't I tell you on the live stream they'd done these really arty photos of these people, and they're really going to town on the publicity shots and things like this. And here it appears we have a reason.
I'm Christina Cook. I'm a mission specialist.
I'm Jeremy Hansen. I'm a mission specialist.
I'm Victor Glover. I'm the pilot.
I'm Reed Wiseman. I'm the commander for the Artemis 2 mission to the moon.
To the moon.
To the moon.
To the moon.
I love it. That's enough of that. Hollywood couldn't do a better job. Oh, yes, very, very good. Very good. And the point you're making here, well, I think the live stream we've just done, the live stream I did, says an awful lot about that. Anyway, Peter Bernard says, taxi drivers tend to prefer cash in my experience. Hey, brilliant, Peter, brilliant. Brilliant, mate. Well, wherever you're going, if I ever go to where you are, I'll get the taxis there. John Nolan says their card machine is always broken. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, right? It's not the same thing applies to the A to Z as applies to this, and vice versa. You know, if your cash machine breaks down, what are you going to do? If your card machine breaks down, what are you going to do? Pay cash. If there's no cash, you don't pay. And no one can buy anything. No one can pay for anything. It's a nightmare. Stephen Truseeker says on Weird Weekend North, that's not a lot of stuff. Oh, you brought a Ouija board. Well, good luck with that. Yeah, I mean, it is quite. I mean, it's quite a lot if you're just carrying it by hand, Stephen. I mean, the Big Book alone by Colin Wilson is weighs you down, but the Ouija board is like what really weighed me down. Yeah. Oh, we have here Weird Weekend North. We have Rocco Ravenhill. Still Waters Run Deep 1968. Another new name. Hello, Ravenhill. How you doing? Great to see you on your travels, Ben. Thanks, Ravenhill. Much appreciated. See how we are living, says on Weird Weekend on North. Sniffing old ladies. Now that's a weird weekend. I wasn't sniff. You say sniffing, it's like I'm doing a Joe Biden on her while when I'm sitting next to her on the coach. No, it's just. Why do you think women wear perfume? It's about smell. I mean, smell is a thing, isn't it? When you in terms of attraction. I got this sort of like I was wearing this. I got this sort of like it's called Aromaco. I use. It's kind of it's nice actually. It's a nice sort of earthy type fragrance I put on. 73 Max Q. One thing I would like to ask the defectives, are they aware of the disproportionate onset of early cataracts in Apollo astronauts that went to the moon? Radiation damage to their eyes. Apollo 10 crew and families were told it was 50-50 they would return to Earth safely. No astronaut could get life insurance. That's not the way the world is now. That's why NASA and virtually everyone else who could possibly be held accountable for anything is more careful. Most astronauts were test pilots. Any idea of the rate of test pilots were dying when they were doing it? Try once a week. Would that be allowed now? I don't know, Max. I don't have an answer for that right now. Max says here, sorry, this is, we got another long comment here from Max Q. All right. As with most things, Ben, you bend the truth when it comes to Gary McKinnon. McKinnon didn't just hack those computers, and while waiting for stuff to download, the police knocked on his door. McKinnon was at it for 13 months, plenty of time to download files. His excuse for not doing so was he forgot how to. Yeah, right, a systems administrator who forgot how to download a file. McKinnon's only looking for evidence of UFOs was nothing more than a fabrication to try and get people on his side. In truth, he was out to and did indeed cause damage and mayhem while revealing his own self-importance. Max, I think if you've listened to a couple of interviews with him, especially the one he did with Kerry Cassidy, I think you'll find that's not the case. McKinnon deleted critical files from operating systems which shut down the United States Army's military district of Washington network of 2,000 computers for 24 hours. McKinnon also posted a notice on the military's website, "Your security is crap." Well, that part is true. That's true. He did. He actually said that to them. After the 9/11 attacks, he deleted weapons logs at the Earl Naval Weapons Station, rendering its network of 300 computers inoperable and paralyzing munitions supply deliveries for the United States Navy's Atlantic Fleet. McKinnon was found to have copied data, account files, and passwords onto his own computer. So much for forgetting how to. How about this message he left? US foreign policy is akin to government-sponsored terrorism these days. It was not a mistake that there was a huge security stand down on September the 11th last year. I am solo. I will continue to disrupt at the highest levels. I think that says it all. And I think, Max Q, you have believed a load of lies and propaganda to try and continue to cover up the truth of what McKinnon was after. And this is all, this sort of thing, it's all designed just to obfuscate. It's a trick, and you've fallen for it, mate. You've fallen for it. Totally. Max, David Smith says, I'm replying to comment 73. How am I doing for time? Let's have a look. All right, this is the last, then I'll just read this, and then I think I'm done for this hour. If I dream of a red Mini and someone else dreams of a red Mini that same night, doesn't mean the red Mini exists. Well, no, if one other person doesn't, if a million people do, it might. Some religious people actually hear audible voices from their God, and sometimes they say very similar, the same things. We could say this because their God exists, or we could say that perhaps it's because many of them have been exposed to similar verses and teaching from their religion. Well, obviously, like if their God is just reciting things that he says anyway in the Bible, or the Quran, or whatever text we're talking about, then yeah, you could explain it that way, David. But if you're using this as a sort of metaphor for what people experience on ayahuasca and NDEs, etc., it's not the same, or sleep paralysis and things like that. Ultimately, we don't know, but the good evidence requires to prove such claim has yet to be shown. I've never said that we could prove it, David, but I mean, what your explanation metaphor here is not adequate. And so we have another conspiracy required rather than it's a problem with the evidence. No, we have another conspiracy and the evidence has no problem, I think, or less of a problem than you think. And it does require extraordinary evidence if you're claiming other worlds and beings exist. Perhaps so, but I think it requires more extraordinary evidence, say 15 extraordinary points rather than 10. If you're claiming that people all over the world, every human brain in every country, every race, every religion, every culture, produces exactly the same images under certain states of consciousness. Why? How did that evolve? Why would it evolve? That, I think, requires 15 extraordinary points. To say that other worlds and being exists only requires 10 extraordinary points. So I'm afraid you are out extraordinary, mate. Completely different to suggesting someone just saw a bird, for example. It's like if someone told me they saw a robin, fair enough. If someone told me they saw a giant bald eagle, I'd actually ask for more evidence than just taking their word for it, as I would with the robin. Or perhaps if you were living in a country where robins were very common, like where I live in England, and bald eagles are bald eagles do not live in England. Yes, fair enough. The type of experiences you're claiming are evidence of other realities and beings would be world changing. Yes. Hence the requirement for a high standard of evidence. Yes, and also hence the requirement for a conspiracy to suppress them, David. I think you're almost agreeing with me here. The necessity for both. High standard of evidence and a conspiracy to suppress them. Some people don't want the world changed. You must realize that. If someone sees a bird, even an eagle, it has pretty much zero impact in the same way. Yeah. Or if someone saw a bald eagle in England, it wouldn't, because we think, how the hell did that get there? This is why we have the saying, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Saying it in a silly voice doesn't make it less valid. Not saying it in a silly voice, no. But it does make it less valid when you bring up the criticism that I do in my skeptic video. Anyway, there's some answers on that. There's some replies to that comment, which I'll tackle in the next segment of this video. All right, guys and gals, that's 2 hours in the can. Third hour coming up. And we're only about halfway through. This is going to be a long one again. In fact, we're not even quite halfway through, I'd say. Dave, carrying on with David Smith's comments, he left a very good one last time. As much as I disagree with him, you can't deny he's sometimes leads some very good comments. Nobody's raising the bar. The bar is just different depending on how a claim impacts our shared reality. No, I mean, I'm specifically stating that people will set a certain standard of evidence. Skeptics do this all the time. If you look, I know you've seen my skeptic videos now. They'll set a certain standard of evidence, and then if you achieve that, they'll then demand more. They'll say, no, that standard wasn't good enough because you've achieved it. We're now going to set another challenge. Rather than just admitting you're right, we're going to set another challenge for you, and you've got to go further. David says, this is why you don't accept a picture of a crate filled with gold bars as proof of the Nigerian prince is waiting for you to send the legal fees to release it from customs. All right. Oh dear, that's a shame. He swore blind it was going to turn up next week. It's still in its vault in Lagos, I expect. I wonder how, probably another 100 quid should be enough. I'll get in touch with him. You're not raising the bar. The bar is quite rightly is higher than it would be for someone telling you they saw a rainbow. No, you don't understand, David. Okay, you set a certain standard of evidence for someone who saw a rainbow. All right, that's fair enough. They achieve it. Now, supposing the existence of rainbows was very controversial. Rainbows were an anomalous phenomenon. And you said, well, look, I've seen one. There's a photograph. Here's 5 other people who saw it. Is that good enough? And they'll say, what the ideal is, because going back a little bit to the beginning, suppose a skeptic said to you, I don't believe rainbows exist unless you show me a photograph. Where is it? Where's your 5 independent witnesses? Where are they? So you do that, and then they say, I still don't believe in rainbows. See, so what you're essentially saying here, you're not comparing. You missed the point. You're comparing something that is easy to believe with something that is difficult to believe. Something which it's understandable if you believe them, and someone else you say, well, I'm right to be skeptical of that. But what I'm saying is that sometimes skeptics will say one thing, they'll say something's the first thing, then they'll transfer it into the second when someone actually achieves it. Someone actually achieves what they demand. They want, you see, once someone achieves exactly what the skeptic is asking for, the skeptic will then rewrite that history and say, no, I want more. Okay, he says, yeah, oh God, there's another one, right? There's another comment here from David. Just saying it's more than that, quote unquote. I didn't say that, did I? If I said that, then, well, you see, people say, well, Ben, you keep selectively saying you forgot you said something when you did. It may occur to you, in my memory, I don't have a photographic memory, and I get, thousands of words of comments posted every week. So just please bear with me about when it comes to things like that. Isn't good evidence or a convincing argument? Ben, hang on. So saying it's more than that isn't good evidence or a convincing argument. All right, then. I don't understand. Sorry, maybe it's something I said in the previous video. If it's more than that, then demonstrate it. If it's more than that, then demonstrate it. I try to. That's the point. That's what I'm trying to do. It's not up to anyone else to demonstrate you're wrong. Oh, not the burden of proof fallacy, please. Not this. I can't prove that unicorns don't exist. Does that mean I can't prove that rangers can't fly? Does that mean rangers fly until I prove that they don't? No serious researcher actually says that. No serious pundit would ever claim that. This is a misrepresentation of the woo-woo community by skeptics, or should I say most of the woo-woo community. It's not up to anyone else to demonstrate you're wrong if you actively believe it. It always seems to reach an impasse where the answer becomes because of another conspiracy or some other claim that has zero substance. Well, no, I think when I posit another conspiracy, I do so with good reasons. I don't just say, well, it's just another conspiracy, so there. I try to explain exactly what the nature of that conspiracy is. The previous example was I brought it up in my review of the film The Discovery, relating to ayahuasca and DMT. A local council meeting isn't a grand claim at all, though. We can document such events. Yeah, I know. We have experiences. Those experiences are real in the sense we might see, hear, feel, taste, smell things from them. But that doesn't make them a part of reality. If you dream you won the lottery, that's an experience too. But I'm sure you wouldn't be rushing out of bed to order 1 million copies of your book. No, but if you want to, David, you're perfectly welcome to. I know, because that's a dream. Obviously, I dream all kinds of things. My dreams are very interesting, but I know they're just dreams. Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly what a local council meeting isn't a grand claim. Claiming a dream is real isn't. Yeah, I'm not denying a dream is real. The thing about ayahuasca and DMT and things is that it's not just dreams. It's a distinct difference, like the NDE. It's a distinct difference. I'm not denying the experiences. I'm just not convinced those experiences are based in reality. Fair enough. I'm also not convinced by this evidence you talk about brains producing from all over the world is accurate either. Well, okay, but if you don't believe that's fine. But then that does beg the question: why have we evolved that? I mean, the actual entities seen are quite specific. They have specific features, clothing, facial features, things like that, which are very specific. But we do know when people need surgery, we can render them unconscious with certain drugs. Yeah, I know. That's something you don't need. You see, essentially, we're dealing 100% with subjective, dare I say, evidence, because it's something that we can just relate and we think. So I can say I think a certain thing, and well, then you've got to take my word for that. But you see what I mean? Well, when you give someone a certain drug, they fall unconscious. That's something objective. This works in almost all cases. It's simply what the brain does under those conditions. No, when you give people certain drugs, they fall unconscious. But if you give someone a certain drug and people from all over the world, as I said, have remarkably similar experiences, that's something different. That requires explanation. it wouldn't be a massive leap to consider similar things happening with other drugs. No, unconsciousness. You can't compare the experiences of ayahuasca. Say, well, because people all have these experiences on ayahuasca, it's just like saying, well, if you give everybody sodium pentothal, they're going to all collapse and fall asleep. It's not the same. Whether you accept it or not, that is a potential explanation, far more likely. Oh, well, it is a potential explanation, but I don't think it's more likely. It could be a massive coincidence. It could. Because we already have examples of certain drugs impacting people in largely the same way. Well, I've just answered that with unconsciousness and things like that. Think of all the prescription medications available for treating various illnesses and conditions. They exist because they have reliable effects on people. Yes, you take a certain thing. For example, aspirin will cause everyone takes aspirin generally has a relief of pain. Everyone who takes antibiotics can cure an infection. Yeah, I don't think you can't really compare these two things, though. It's not quite the same. Here we're dealing with something which has this experience of changing your causing an altered state of consciousness, which produces a specific image. That is, David. I think you really got to realise that there's more to it than that. I think. Lisa Croy Freedom. Hi, Lisa, on Weird Weekend North 2023. Good stuff, Ben. Watching now. I kind of hate all the cities now. They're not me, and I feel trapped when they're. Yes. I'm glad Oxford's sort of like a sort of in between place, which is, it's not quite a big city, but it's not quite a little village either. We have a population of 180,000, but it's quite isolated. You know, there's lots of green space in Oxford. Same video, Lisa. You got some good walking in then. It was almost nostalgic, reminded me of being a hospital porter. Rhiannon, hello, darling. How you doing? Good to hear from you again. Hope all's well with you. Oh, God, it's that time of year again. I have to start freaking out about Ben crossing major roads and risking getting squished by lorries. Oh, I was all right, Rhiannon. It's really, there's a pavement all the way along and there's crossings and things. Disappointed that no one was able to give you a lift. Oh, well, I did. No, last year, one of the others gave me a lift to the hotel one night. But now, most of them are staying in Rixton with Glazebrook, you see. Really sorry to have missed it this year. Thank goodness we have a HPANWO reportage, Ben. Did you notice the picture on the wall of your hotel room looked like alien orbs landing in a forest? It did a bit, didn't it? Yeah. Regarding the owl-alien connection, I think this was first mentioned in Whitley Strieber's book Communion. Yeah. It was also, it's also a feature, of course, of The Fourth Kind. That film I saw. I wonder how this could be an example of how myths start and how long into the future will people be associating owls with aliens, but the Whitley Strieber origin will be entirely forgotten. I suppose for as long as people read his books and things, maybe. But, you know, a lot of origins do get forgotten quite quickly. For example, everyone has forgotten that I am the first journalist in ufology to break the Pentarch incident UFO to the world. And that was only what, 6 years ago? I mean, I don't mind. I'm not in this for my ego, but I was the first journalist to cover this, and I've been overtaken by many others since. I don't care. The word's getting out about the incident. That's all that matters. I wonder if regarding the mausoleum in Barbados, where the coffins were found to have moved, there was an article about this a few years ago in Fortean Times. Yeah, I think Claire Daisy wrote that, Rhiannon. The conclusion was the cause was disappointingly mundane in that the chambers would flood with the current. Oh, right, it's not the same article I'm thinking of. All right, because I did have a copy of that one. I think would flood with the current of the water swirling around being strong enough to dislodge. All right, the chambers would flood with the current of the water swirling around about and being strong enough to dislodge the coffins. And after the water receded, the coffins were left in different positions. I really need to give up the day job and become a full-time Fortean, don't I? Oh, you'd be really happy, you know. Once I win the lottery, I will. In the meantime, thank you for your excellent adventures, Ben. You're welcome, Rhiannon. Mwah. It's great to hear from you again. And I'll ask Claire Davy about that. It's because I remember she did talk about her article. I've seen the article. Obviously, there would be signs within the mausoleum of regular flooding, for example, mud and things like that from water would be deposited. It's possible this could happen because this did happen with Ötzi the Iceman. Now, do you remember that body they found up in the mountains? Now, this is a guy who died he was 7,000 or 8,000 years ago in prehistoric times. He'd been climbing up in the mountains between Italy and Austria. Obviously succumbed to the cold and died. He also had been shot with an arrow. He had some altercation with somebody and had an arrow wound in his body. They found him sort of sticking out of a glacier in the high Alps where there's a permanent ice cap. And it turns out that they worked out that they thought, well, this is just a one-off, that the glacier melted because of climate change, of course, and exposed him at just the right moment when people were walking past. However, they worked out afterwards that he'd actually, during his long internment in the ice over those millennia, it actually thawed out and refrozen several times. He had actually moved because the ice had melted a little bit and moved him, and he moved a little bit in the water, and then it had frozen again. So that happened about 4 or 5 times during that period. Yeah. Thanks for that comment, Orianon. Oh, Stephen's replied here, the owl is a symbol of the Illuminati as well. It is, yeah. Bohemian Grove, etc. Weird Weekend North. Stephen Truthseeker says, Ben, I don't like it when I walk past homeless and they openly beg for stuff either, and I was homeless. When I was homeless and I found it, if people want to give, they will give. I also noticed there was fake homeless who would just beg for money and then go home. Stephen, I suspect the ones in Birmingham, I suspect there's an organised racket going on. It's basically because so many of I've got to say, it's because so many of the homeless people are non-white. I mean, it seems to be mostly white people who are homeless. In Birmingham, they're all like something else, Asian, black, you know. I saw a Filipino one. I suspect there's an organised racket there. Unless it is a demographic blip. It may be Birmingham's different. I don't know. But I'm always polite. But, you know, I just say, you know, I don't donate cash or goods on the street. I support a homeless charity when I can. I don't donate cash or goods on the street. Yeah, there's the homeless people I see around Oxford. There's about a dozen people in Oxford who regularly sleep rough. They've been there for years and years and years. Literally years. And I just, you know, despite all the money people give them, and they all hang around on Cowley Road where there's lots of, you know, left-wing, middle-class young people who are ridden with guilt. And they sit there, you know, looking all vulnerable and victim-like, and they look up and say, "Can you spare some change, please?" And of course, poking their conscience with a hot needle. And of course, every so often, someone comes along and just give them 50 quid or something to feel better. And they know that. This is why you never get homeless people at Cowley Centre, because it's a working-class area. They'll just tell you to go to hell. They know better. But despite how much money they've made over the years, I know beggars can make a lot of money because if they know what they're doing, beggars can make it. They can earn a good day's work if they just go to the right part of town where there's guilty rich people, sit there looking pathetic and so it's tugging at people's heartstrings. They can make a fortune. Yet despite all the money they earn, they can't get off the streets. Anyway, Stephen says here on the same video, Ben, if you got that Colin Wilson book for £1, you got a bargain because it's worth more. Oh, I wasn't going to say anything, Stephen. Line Spec says on Weird Weekend North 2023. Yeah, my fave vids, reportage. Thanks, Lime Specs. This is on RDH Panorama live stream. It's an old one. Hugo Rune. Oh God, I think he's old jam. He's atting jam noise. I repeat, doing a bit of a Hugo Rune. Sorry, forgive me, mental problems. Honestly, Ben, I love your post, but this baffles me. What's this? Just a timestamp here. Oh, come on, it's taking ages to open this page. It's probably downloading there, you know. You're doing a bit of a Hugo Rune. He is. He's not a grey. He's green. But there's
Yeah,
I think it's because Jam Noise was skinning up, if you know what I mean. Weird Week in North King L. Charlie puts the V in div. Oh, well, I'm not a huge fan of his either, but I don't believe he deserved the abuse he got. I don't believe he deserved the abuse he got, King L. Gary Robinson says on Weird Weekend North, hey, Ben, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Yeah, I like that. Was mostly unpopular with fans because of the silly CGI scenes, such as swinging through the jungle with monkeys, for example. Oh, it didn't bother me, that. It didn't bother me. The character of Mutt Williams was also on par with Jar Jar Binks. I think the reason, Gary, I must say, the reason I like that film so much is because of the alien UFO element, which may not appeal to all indie fans. It's the Jar Jar Binks, which is why apparently it's not going to be featured in Indy 5. Oh, but yeah, Jar Jar Binks was a massive mistake. Yeah. My point being, I don't think it was the subject of Crystal Skulls that the fans don't like, but the fact there was too much CGI cheers. It could be that. I mean, may not be the Crystal Skull thing specifically. It was literally because of those little flaws, which I never noticed because I was so fascinated by the ET element, I think. Gary says on the same video, nothing worse than being able to get proper food, not being able to get proper food, mate. The first time I visited New York City, I found I couldn't get anything to eat after 10 p.m. And I thought it was meant to be the city that never sleeps. All right, I've not been to that place, Gary, but So, reply to comment 69, Hugo Runes. I never have ads. I use Firefox and Avast never have ads. All right, okay. Well, Hugo, I mean, it doesn't bother me particularly. I mean, if in a sense it beats like having paywalls, that's all I can say. Because without ads, there would be more paywalls. So I'm not bothered. I just hover over the skip button. Hugo Rune, same video. That's a reply to comment 69. He's going for all the old ones, Hugo. MGTOW, never heard of them. I'm single, 66, not interested. All right. Well, I'm not interested in being a MGTOW blame. MGTOW's a miserable, MGTOW's a very dark, miserable people. Very cynical, very misanthropic, I just don't like it. Okay, so reply to comment 69, we have a timestamp from Hugo Rune. Hugo Rune and all subscribers. Jam Noise says Happy New Year to Hugo. All right. Hugo says to Jam Noise. Okay, what's this? Onwards. The problem with my keyboard. All right. I have numlock on. I think we'd have numlock on. I didn't notice. Must have been hit by accident. Perhaps Token made me forget. Best to you and all, especially to Jam Noise 72. Hugo, is there some romance in the air? You two could go and skin up together, Okay, new video, Trump in court live stream. Dark Corners UK first. Well done, Dark Corners. Tinfoil hat on its way to you. Hugo Rune 69 again. Cool. You're going for all the old ones, Hugo. That's what I did back in January. Does your cap lettering read Rizzler? Why don't you wear a British cap? Try a bowler, perhaps. Well, I wouldn't want a bowler because then I look like Bowler Hat Man. Because, I mean, I already look like a slightly older version of him anyway. Without the beard, of course. And without the stupid accent and the arrogant manner. But still, Oh, but I enjoyed my debate with him now. I think I beat him easily. There we go. So this one seems to. Does it say Rizzler on the front? No, it's actually an Australian. It's an Australian flag, Hugo. It's an Australian flag, but the brim's gone. It's an Australian flag, and the brim has just collapsed. So that's what it is anyway. Right, calling his crew. Trump in court live stream. Holiday from what? And why does an overweight, unemployed British welfare case care so much about American politics? I don't know, Cornelius. You'll have to ask an overweight, unemployed British welfare case. I don't know any of them. Anyway, yeah. So, by the way, you need to put on some weight, Hugo, you skinny bastard. Honestly, when you go out for a walk, when you go over a grating, you've got to do that to stop yourself falling down into the gap below the grating. And every time you bend over, your arse looks like a polo mint with a razor blade on either side of it. Have a good meal, for goodness sake. You replied to comment 70. Hugo Rune has moved on to the next one now. Mumbling with confusion. Yeah, he does, doesn't he? Or do you mean you? Or do you mean Steve mumbling? TK says here on Trump in Court live stream, support your American billionaire paying off hookers, Ben. Oh, dear. You've come a long way since having pride and dignity many years ago. Well done. Your sarcasm is not lost on me, TK, and I think that's a complete misrepresentation of President Trump. What's wrong with being a billionaire? It doesn't mean the Communist Party didn't take power in the night. Paying off hookers. This is crazy. It's a very minor situation which is overreached its expiry date. What they call it, indemnity. What's the word they use? They got like 2 years to prosecute, then they have to drop it. It's been blown out of all proportion it's been blown out of all proportion for political reasons. That's it. Marley Pumpkin. Oh, here we go. Oh, we got another bitchy comment now. I'm sure it's on the same video. Now you can pay yourself to Donald Trump. I don't. I'm nothing like him. You watch PM sites. I think you mean porn, and you have had more girlfriends than just. Your yawning is despicable, true shill. You Sue Stain, you twat. Right. So, firstly, I didn't watching. I was just curious about Stormy Daniels, so I managed to find some of her work. That's all. And I've had a few girlfriends in my time. Only one serious one, which was Sue Stain. Her name's Sue Stain. I mean, I do pronounce that pretty wrongly. As for my yawning, doing despicable. Well, Marley, why don't you go and watch somebody else then? Why do you keep watching me all the time? Why is it you cannot? You have this horrible situation. You hate me to death that you can't look away. The term hate sub could have been invented for you. A Trump in Court live stream. Phil Hainsworth Pepper. Hello, Phil. How you doing? Hi, Ben. Hope you're well, mate. I am. Thanks, Phil. I hope you are. Right, here we go. Trump in Court live stream. Phil Hainsworth Pepper again. Richard D. Hall being sued by Manchester Arena victim. Yes, it's been all over the news, Phil, and I have covered it. I've done. Well, I cover it in this video, Trump in Court live stream, but I've already also done a dedicated video called RDH on Panorama. I think it was a live stream. I've done an article on PANWO Voice. So I've covered it in detail. No doubt I'll come back to this subject as this case progresses. This is Sax Glenn that says good. Oh, shut up, Saxon. Cornelius Cruz says, hope they ruin him. BZ Garson says, excellent news. You trio of twats, honestly. Someone disagrees with you, and you're actually happy that they're now in legal trouble. You actually support the use of the legal system to silence people you don't agree with. You do realize that if we lived in like a parallel universe where the woo-woos were in charge, that could happen to you. It could happen to you. It's so childish and it's narrow-minded of you all three of you, to say that. You do realize, that it's, as I said, it's only through accident of placement that the legal system is not being used by you, but in the same way. We must never support the use of the legal system to silence people we disagree with. Never. If for no other reason than because it could just easily happen to us. So you shut up, you three. Trump in Court live stream, Keith Smith. Great stream, Ben. Maybe you could channel fairies to get Richard Dopey Hall off. PMS. What's that say there? There's something. There's a bit missing there. PSY. Does Dopey still have a television program on satellite cable? I remember you being on his show years ago. Hang on, there's a bit of that hidden. I think it's because I'm using a Zoom function here. Right. P.S. Does Dopey still have Dopey? His name's Richard. Does he still have a television program on wherever it is? Okay, let's go back to on internet cable. I remember you being on a show years ago. I was on his show. I've been on a show twice. No, he doesn't. Richard, to give him his proper name, does not have a television program on satellite cable anymore. They don't. The people, the mainstream television doesn't want people like Richard on there because they just want stupid, banal, deceitful rubbish on there. Richard has his own platform where he can put what he believes is true out. No one can do that in the mainstream media anymore. So no, he doesn't. And you think calling him dopey is actually somehow mature or sophisticated, Keith? Because it's not. It's stupid. It's idiotic. Tor Engen says right here, this is, because I asked him about his, he seemed to have Chinese on there. And he's, no, it's not Chinese, it's Japanese. It's kanji related to the Shogun era Engen. And right, I see, right. It actually means is Engen. So this is a Japanese writing system related to Shogun era Engen. Okay, right. And this other word here is these sigils here actually are katakana for Tor, right? Kanji is a pictogram borrowed from Chinese, while katakana is Japanese letters. But Alan has started up again. But I do not expect everyone in Europe to know that. All right, Tor, are you Japanese? I didn't know that if you were, but welcome. That's good. Welcome to say hello from Japan, everyone. For Japan. Right, we're going back to Apollo Detectives 11 now. The one before, and we have Alan McBride who says, just compare the Apollo detectives to the pro-Apollo folks. When listening to and reading both sides of the issue, it's obvious the detectives have integrity and knowledge, whereas the pro-Apollo folks are sadly lacking in integrity and knowledge. Great show, lads. The truth will prevail. Thank you very much, Alan. Alan McBride says on the same video, the sun is certainly ramping up. There's been maybe 3 X flares this past few months and many M flares. Correct. I cover this on her HPANWO Radio Space Weather. These flares, if powerful enough, smack Earth like electromagnetic plasma slaps, inducing charge in terrestrial electrocircuits, burning them up. Yeah. It actually happened. It's happened several times. There was, of course, the Carrington event, which is the massive one in the 19th century. But it's happened in recent years where entire regions have been without power for days in North America. I think all the area around New York was, southern Canada was completely shut off for about 3 days because of a massive solar electromagnetic storm caused by coronal mass ejection. Yeah. Being on the moon during such a solar plasma bombardment is suicide. Yep, no atmosphere, no electromagnetic fields. You are naked for creation, to quote David Percy. Jack Parker says, Donald Trump, no. I think most people, when thinking of giving lenience to Donald Trump, saw this son of a bee, and it's just what he's written. I'm not censoring him. To them, right. Saw that to themselves. I don't know. Judging by the protest, Jack, I don't think that's true. Obvious is obvious, no matter how disillusioned and conspiratorial, rational orientated we attempt to make ourselves. It's only fitting that New York bred this monster. He's not a monster, Jack. He's a good guy. And then New York takes him down. He's been a complacent, spoilt fool all his life. Come on now, Ben. The Emperor has got no clothes on. I guess I'll start this video now. I have, of course, no idea what your opinion on Donald Trump is on this day. Well, Jack, as you will see when you watch on, I'm actually a big supporter of his, and I think you're being unfair to him. I have made several videos. In fact, I've got an entire portal called the Donald Trump Portal, where I talk about this in detail. I'll just to show it to you. Let's just find it. So it's just handy having all these portals because then I can there we go. Right, so there we are. Right, share screen. There it is, guys. Donald Trump portal, HPANWO Voice, HPANWO TV, HPANWO Radio, and there it all is. All my material on Donald Trump is in one place now. That's your one-stop shop. A single point of reference for all things Trumpian. So I don't agree with you, Jack, but there you go. And Jack says here, well, hell, Donald Trump's ethos is clear. He said he can do anything he wants on Fifth Avenue. I think he was joking about shooting people, Jack. Funny enough, I bet if Hillary Clinton said something like, Hillary Clinton said, "We came, we saw, he died," about Muammar Gaddafi. And yet Trump jokes about shooting people, and everyone goes nuts. Just listening to his rallies re-emphasize it. He said he's not like regular people. He said he's better than you. No, he says he's better than the political classes. He can get away with things. He's spelling it out. At what point do we realize he's not being facetious or joking? He said maybe Mike Pence deserves it hanging in response to what reality was that was unfolding, his understanding. He's a misguided monster, unhinged. Isn't that obvious enough? With that litmus test of his atrocity? I don't agree, and he's none of those things. And he fell out with Mike Pence because, well, he believed that Mike Pence could stop the whole January the 6th thing. He believed that Mike Pence did have the power. Oh, in fact, here we have Jack. In fact, Jack's coming on to this in his next comment. Why did Mike Pence deserve it, Ben? I think you understand our government's law well enough. What is the reality? Was that legally correct for Donald Trump to say that? When is he responsible for his words? Those clearly illegal words, at least in our legal system. Somebody's got to understand it, don't they? They're not just words on paper. Another very obvious litmus test of Donald Trump's mind and his mind capacity. Well, if you're referring to jokes he's made, Jack, I mean, they're just jokes. Now, as for Mike Pence, Trump fell out. Mike Pence, during the Congress met on January the 6th to, I forgot what the word term is, ratify the election. And Trump, this was always presided over by the vice president. Trump ordered Mike Pence to nullify it. And Mike Pence said he wanted to, but he couldn't. The law wouldn't allow him. And Trump said the law does allow you to do that. You just got to do it. And Mike said, no, it doesn't allow me. I wouldn't do it. Now, this is why they fell out. You say, was that legally correct for Donald Trump to do that? I think you understand our government's law well enough. I don't, actually. I don't know exactly what the legal position was there. Trump and Pence obviously differed what the law was in that situation. Jack says on Trump in Court live stream, we can't just follow along and rebel for the sake of rebellion. This is where Trump's head is besides up his ass. All right. And Jack says here as well on the same video, the more likely story of conspiratorial delusion. I certainly don't think I'm a bad guy as a born Democrat. I don't think you're a bad guy, Jack. I disagree with you. You've done nothing to indicate you're bad. I just by chance haven't checked a different mark of the party, but I'm a centrist, and no one should be anything but. In a true perspective on reality, no, I'm not a bad man. I've got altruistic ethos. I don't bandwagon along with anything, whether it seems right or not making rational. That's if it's okay in some way. Well, fair enough. I consider myself a centrist, true. And altruistic, well, I believe in being kind. That's what I do, yeah. Jack Parker says, I'll say it, I believe Bill Clinton raped a woman. Well, according to the accusations, he's raped several. I also believe Donald Trump raped a woman in a dressing room, also a 13-year-old at Jeffrey Epstein's. Well, that's not possible because firstly, Donald Trump has never been to Epstein Island. All this stuff, Donald Trump flew the Lolita Express. No, he didn't. He's flown twice with Epstein. And it was from Florida, but it wasn't to Epstein Island, it was to New York. The reason is Epstein offered him a lift, the same way we would give ordinary people will give you a lift in their car. Epstein's offered Trump a lift on one of his planes, on his private fleet, his private fleet of airliners. And Trump said, okay, can you give me a lift to New York? And he did. Bill Clinton has been to Epstein Island 26 times. So he didn't just drop in there once. It was not just a one-off. He was a regular at Epstein Island. Jack Parker. When do we not believe what seems likely? Bill Clinton's victim passed a polygraph. Can Donald Trump pass a polygraph test to any of these allegations just for the heck of it? Sure does seem very important. This is on Trump in Court live stream. Jack Parker, you do realize Stormy Daniels would have been in her 20s when she met Trump? Right. Stormy Daniels is a grown woman. Now, you could argue that he did the wrong thing because he was married, of course. He shouldn't have done that because he's a married man. But this is far, far different from what Bill Clinton did or is alleged to have done. Stormy Daniels is a grown woman. That's the difference. Jack also says on the same video, I've once pondered this question. If I claim to have a homosexual relationship with the Donald, how embarrassing. Have you, Jack? Ooh. Is he foolish and naive enough just to pay me that fucking much money? I don't know, Jack. I mean, it depends. Firstly, it's not illegal anymore to have a homosexual relationship with a man, if you are a man. Secondly, I mean, would you do that just to get money out of him? I mean, some people do this. You see, they'll deliberately seduce somebody famous just so they can then go and sue them or demand hush money from them. I wouldn't want to be rich and famous. I really wouldn't. Let's get in line, girls. Come on, let's try and stay in the line of truth and probability. Okay. Jack says on the same video, you know, I have been thinking of starting a business. That would suit me just fine. $130,000. Well, good luck, mate. Good luck. Jack's another comment here on the same video. Jack, I noticed Jack tends to do this. He tends to post multiple comments in a row on the same videos. Could it be? He does actually also have a kid by his housekeeper, NBA again. Does he? Of course, after he gives me the $130,000 to cover the gay relationship, I could even tell him I'll be back. Well, that's what bloody Virginia Roberts Jeffrey did with Prince Andrew, didn't she? Oh, that was very disappointing. I thought she was serious, and all she wanted was more money. That was a very, very big, huge disappointment. That was. Shame on her. You know that you'll just keep doing it. You know why? Because she had insurance policy, possibly proof. Recordings. Who knows what she bluffed him with? But you knew it was true. I think we're all able to be jurors. For some reason, why would that be in our nation's laws? Well, this is the thing. This is not a lawsuit. This is a criminal prosecution. Stormy Daniels is not like going. She's not like doing a Virginia Roberts Jeffrey demanding money. She's reported it to the police, or someone's reported it to the police, and they've now arrested Trump. It's a criminal thing. Her insurance policy was if she got whacked, it would go right back at him. Dead man's trigger does work in some cases, Jack, but you know, I don't think Trump's that kind of guy. I don't think he would do that. Hatchy, hello, Trump in court live stream. Ben, do we have to conform to the rules? Missing KBS. Yeah, yes, I miss him too. How things have changed. Personally speaking, I'm up for a more simpler life. Yeah, I am. Things are so complicated, aren't they, Hatchie? Ben, we are in big trouble. In the 70s and 80s, these conversations didn't exist, mind you, nor did the stock cube. I don't know if that's a pun because it's KNOR, which of course is a brand of stock and things like that, gravy, that sort of thing. It's called an internet. Yeah, we didn't have the internet back then. I mean, I think to myself, how do we survive without it? But of course, it's one of these things you always have. You know, you have it and you don't, and you think back to what was it like without it, and I can't think what it was like without it. And I thought, how did I cope? Because I need it so much in my life. You see. Ben, time as an Englishman to look after his own backyard. Get your survival gear ready, my friend. Respect. They're coming for us all. Well, I don't think there's any survival gear which should stop me being picked up by the Illuminati. However, Hatchie, I do believe the fact that Trump is still alive, as I said in this video, indicates there are good people out there with power watching our backs. How am I doing for time? Right. Oh, yep. So, Jack Parker says here, Trump in court. Boris Johnson, although trying to play the coattail game as a rebel, was having some success not combing his hair, etc., maybe not using deodorant. I believe a good man at heart did call the election Donald Trump lost. Yeah, Boris Johnson, as you know, I used to regard essentially as the British Trump. I'm not removing the videos and articles I wrote supporting him. A lot of people said he's a shill from the start. I don't believe they've been proved right just because Boris failed. However, it's pretty clear that Boris did fail. Boris could have been the British Trump, but he lacks the courage, he lacks the intelligence, he lacks the self-discipline. And he basically failed. He failed because it all went wrong when the C word began. he could have just told Bill Gates to get stuffed and said he could have told the WHO to get stuffed and said we're going to go for herd immunity, we're going to protect the vulnerable the way we do in flu season, and that's it. And there's going to be no compulsory V words, no lockdowns, nothing. If he'd done that, everything would have been different, but he didn't. He just merges seamlessly with the establishment and just carries on in the usual way. And how did they reward him? How did the bad guys reward him for his treachery towards us and his loyalty to them? They destroyed him. Partygate. They exposed him, what he was doing, which because all the elite classes were doing. They were all breaking their own rules. Do you think Justin Trudeau? Do you think he kissed his grandmother through a window? Do you think Kamala Harris sung Christmas carols on Skype with her family? No, of course not. They all break their own rules. Boris did it, though. This is what I mean. Boris should have known that, if you're going to be in his position and try and do good, you've got to be whiter than white. Just because you see all the others doing it around you doesn't mean you're going to get away with it too. They will selectively expose you. Boris, what a disappointment Boris was. What a disappointment, Jack. And how would you call the election, sir? And could you trust such a man who would make such an allegation without any evidence to show? Well, I think his allegation about the election was correct, and I can't talk about it on YouTube, but it was true. There is evidence. Would allow death and destruction, as his latest statement goes, for this very self-centered, fraudulent reason. All right. I don't think so. But anyway, Trump in court, Brett Riverboat. Hello, Brett. The Republicans have won either way. Trump gets done. The Republican candidate will win. Trump gets not guilty. The Republicans win as Trump will destroy Biden. Brett, he's going to destroy him either way, because even if Trump is found guilty, I mean, they're not going to put him in jail for 50 years or whatever. That's not going to happen. And he will be the winning candidate. I mean, his approval rating has skyrocketed over this. It really has. Conscious Spirit. Hello, Conscious Spirit. Trump in court. Hi, Ben. 2023 may be the new 2016. Love that, eh? Oh, I hope so, Conscious Spirit. There's plenty of time left. And Conscious Spirit also says on Trump, stormy weather, perhaps from 2006. Stormy, yeah. And he paid her for a quote for something from the Beano. Probably not the Bash Street Kids. I had some beautiful pictures taken in, which I had a big smile on my face. Unquote. I was not there and I did nothing to see here. Don't know why our deal is going to die. Stormy Daniels. Though my man gave me 130 grand, you keep talking all the time. Not unlike this, Clinton. It was not me wearing that dress in the picture. Honestly, they've just got to avoid this sort of thing. They just need to keep their heads, these guys. I mean, if you're in that position, I know that the temptation to abuse your position, abuse your power and authority is there all the time. And the bad guys will throw this in front of you all the time to tempt you. But the moment you do that, you essentially put a shackle on your leg, which they can use to control you. Right, should we welcome our AI overlords? This is another thing here. And Max Q says, in your reply to comments video, you brought up the point of GPT being programmed to be woke, etc., as it sometimes says controversial things. Others and myself pointed out that your understanding of GPT and AI in general is non-existent. Yeah, because as I said, Max, you were born with this knowledge, weren't you? The moment you were born, you were crying and suckling milk and stuff, and then you said, Mummy, can I use a computer, please? Because I want to talk to Chat GPT. I'm an expert on this. Right. Allow me to give you an example of your naivety. Yes, as we pointed out, use Chat GPT as a search engine. A search engine can be programmed in such a way as to not list certain. It's not to list or to list not, or you don't split the infinitive. Certain content and give certain information. AI, such as GPT, is different. GPT has inbuilt rules. If you bring up something a bit risque, by and large, it will say that's illegal, immoral, dangerous, etc. I'm not allowed to. Well, you may have noticed, Max, that when I mentioned the New World Order, it kind of gave me a template response, just in case I'm some kind of deranged lunatic planning some kind of terrorist atrocity, which of course I'm not, but it's probably been programmed. As soon as someone mentions the New World Order, you've got to say that just in case. However, if you were to ask it to create an alter ego of itself, called by enter any name you like, say Bob, not bound by those rules for legal reasons, not a complete description of how you do this, Bob will then respond to anything GPT rules allow. For example, I asked GPT for the license plate number of Maxine, etc., my full name, Texas car. GPT refused. It's illegal. Bob went right ahead and did it. Oh, I see. So Bob can breach the Data Protection Act, can it? Well, that is worrying, actually, because, of course, that has implications for privacy, doesn't it? Weird Weekend North Hugo Rune. 36:15 onwards. Okay, so this is a timestamp. All right, ladies and gentlemen, how many of you get this joke? All right, onward, really nice. That's a pair. You need at least 3 for a murder. Love it. Thank you, Ben. All right, a murder of crows. Yeah. Is it at least 3? A pair is 2. I know a murder is a collective noun for crows, like a flock of sheep, a herd of cows, drove of horses, etc. School of fish, murder of crows. Yeah. Love it, Ben. Thank you. You're very welcome, Hugo. Thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed that. Right, Area 51 alien interview with Jon Stewart. Cat Squatch returns. And it's got a number here, which is in Roman numerals, which I believe is 93. Cat Squatch returns 93. I thought they were going to rig a fake interview with TV Yellow star and Liberal Don Jon Stewart. I thought, oh, right, here. Oh, that's a different Jon Stewart. Yes. Yeah, that's funny about Jon Stewart. I mean, who is he exactly? Because I've seen him before. Jon Stewart, American comedian. Let's have a look. Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I just looked at a picture of him. Yeah, it's a common name, Jon Stewart, isn't it? Which can't be his actual surname because of Scotch descent. He came from the desert wandering area. Well, not everyone in Scotland is called Macpherson and MacDonald and things like that. They're not all called that. But I think he has Scottish roots, like many Americans, including Trump, of course, whose mother was a Scotswoman. Marley, how am I doing for time? Okay. Marley Pumpkin says on Area 51 interview with Jon Stewart, let me guess. More nonsense and childish garbage for immature people living in a fantasy world. Well, Marley, you're living in this fantasy world with me then, aren't you? You cannot leave it. You walk hand in hand with me through this fantasy world, don't you? Why don't you just let go and go and find something else you do like? It's not fantasy. The Lights Below says first. Well, you weren't actually, Lights, but I think Marley Pumpkin was ahead of you, unfortunately. So was Cat Squatch. Marley Pumpkin, here we go, says on Weird Weekend North 23. Another comment from Marley. How can you afford to go there when you're on the dole? MI5 money? No, I'm not on the dole, Marley. I work full-time like most people. That's how I can afford to go. It's a load of bullshit and bollocks or something. Bullshit bollocks at that conference. It's a mixture of letters and poo emojis. It's a load of bullshit bollocks. Bollocks at that conference. A waste. Well, Marley, it's not a waste for you to... Why is it not a waste of your time to watch this video you hate so much? I never understand you. I really don't. Marley Pumpkin says, expensive hotel. Actually, it was a Premier Inn, which is quite cheap. I got quite a cheap accommodation there. Area 51 alien interview with Jon Stewart. Tessa1111 says, the road to Rachel. Been on it. Cows don't move. They're artificial. Really? I think they're real. I mean, there is some pasture land around there where cattle graze. Cows don't move. They're artificial. Could you tell me a bit more, right, about that, Tessa? Nothing as it seems says underneath. Tessa, thanks for that. I've driven the entire length of Highway 50, but not near Rachel, Nevada. Oh, it's Highway 375, nothing. That's why you wouldn't go anywhere near Rachel. Oh, yeah, Rachel is like, I think it's It's this tiny little place. Only 40 people live there, and it's 70 miles from the nearest other place. It's really remote. Tessa1111 says, the wild thing was we were eating at the cafe at Rachel. That's the little alien. All of a sudden, the whole building began to shake, loud air traffic flying over. I was wondering if it was for me because of my knowledge of Area 51, just to show off. It was scary. Tessa, probably not. It was probably just some planes coming in to land somewhere, but maybe somewhere, anywhere on the Nellis Range. It might not necessarily be the Groom Lake site. The actual Nellis Air Force Range is enormous. It's the size of Switzerland. There's lots of airfields there. Same video, GSR. Welcome, GSR. I got my copy of this on VHS in the pound shop over 20 years ago. Thought it was fake, but I've heard interviews on Rents Radio, etc. recently that now made me think it's genuine. Yeah, it was a kind of like for a moment it was a kind of underground bestseller back in the day in the mid 90s when it came out. When I first saw it, I didn't really think much of it, but then I thought, because I thought I did this. It was just after the alien autopsy, and I thought, well, it's probably another fake one. It was only when I looked into it in more detail I realized it wasn't fake. Yeah, it is genuine. Same video, James Ellison. Hello, James. Department of Naval Intelligence was what was listed on Bob Lazar's W2. Yeah. As I said, this is something that does not exist in the. It's not officially in existence. It's something. If it exists, it's something secret. Now we have a thread here. Israel Diego Rivera, genius too, the real genius. Hello, Diego Rivera, how you doing? Michael Parkinson should interview the alien. Oh, Parky. Yeah, good old Parky. He was brilliant on that Ghost Watch, wasn't he? And Aero01 says his first question should, what's it like being an alien? And Steve mumbling says to Aero01, that's what the alien would ask Parky. I suppose he would, wouldn't he? He'd say, what's it like being a human? Which, of course, would be an alien from their perspective, wouldn't it? John Nolan or Brian Cox is, oh, God, he would say, I don't believe you are an alien. You're a nowhere. Same video, we have Neil Peel of the Paranormal Peep Show. I've always got my doubts about this, Ben. Why is it filmed in the dark? We only see the head. All right, well, the reason it's filmed in the dark apparently is because the aliens can't stand bright light. Their large eyes would indicate they come from a habitat which is generally low in light. We only see the head again. It's the lack of light. It's the lack of lighting. A big giveaway is the burnt-in time code. In broadcasting and productions, they usually set the time code to start at 10:00:00. This video starts around 4:00:00. It seems a bit strange they would start TC at this time, unless it was what's called the time of day time code, where clock time is fed into the system. Right. That's a good point, except it's clearly a small clip of a much longer piece. Now, I don't know whether that time code, what is it, 4:02:40, whatever it was. I don't know if that's time elapsed or time of day, but it's a clip from a longer piece. But starting an interview bang on 4:0400 just seems a strange time. It could be, I don't know why Victor, maybe, you see, that's a question to ask Victor, actually. I should maybe mention, maybe if I talk to John again, I'll ask him that. Neil continues, I am not convinced by it. Yes, it's not a broadcast company doing it, but if it was a military filming it, even a military unit would follow the traditional 10 time code start. That's a question we could ask John. I mean, it really could, although we don't know exactly when the start was in this particular video, or whether there was something before or after this. We don't even, it could be in this DNI, this Department of Naval Intelligence, they have their own system. I don't know. Or it could be that's literally time of day. It could be, I mean, I know it's very early in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, getting up, like they'd have to get up around the middle of the night. And it could be that when they're doing these interviews, maybe they only do these things when the aliens are ready, because as Victor was explaining, they've had a lot of trouble with this project. And they say at certain times the alien just becomes unresponsive. Max, you said, don't forget, you invited me to take part in the Defectives video. Yeah. Well, my advice to Neil is don't have Max Q on. Is my advice. Steve Mumling says it on the Alien interview. So a second-hand car salesman tells us it's true after tracking down an army doctor that was actually in the army. PMSL, very obvious fake. I may do another video about it myself. Well, I'll have a look at that, Steve, because it's not a very obvious fake, and the evidence does point towards it being real. David Smith says, great video, Steve. Steve Mumling says, thanks, David. Weird Weekend Nord. Captain Daz. Hello, Captain Daz. Nice one, Ben. I enjoy your conference blogs. You were only around the corner at my local train station in Newton-le-Willows. I'm originally from Walkden-Swinton, the Walkden-Swinton area of Salford, and I'm yet to bump into the Veach. All right. Well, if you walk around where lots of security guards are, or where police tend to patrol, you'll see them at some point. Anyway, I'm going to your favourite Lancashire coastal town this Easter, Lytham St Anne's. Nice one, Captain Daz. I'm hoping to be going to Lisa's conference when the date and venue gets sorted. Oh, I'll see you there, mate. See you there. Yeah, that's Lisa at the moment she's gone back on the organising, and she's trying to get that sorted out. And so thanks very much, Captain Daz. Paul Young says excellent. Thanks, Paul. Thank you very much. I do Trump in Court live stream. David Smith says here on Trump in Court live stream, Trump is just another dirty politician like most of them. I don't agree. I'm still shocked people such as yourself believe such things about him being against the New World Order. From what I know of Trump, if I believe in an evil NWO, he would be one of the senior members. Did you see the Jamie Foxx Trump impression? You should listen to it on a reply video because it's short and hilarious. Let's have a look. Okay. Jamie Foxx Trump. All right, let's just go to share screen. There we go. Let's have a look.
There's a lot of great people on both sides. Lots of great people on both sides. I know he's a great person. He couldn't vote for me at the time. Now he can vote for me once he gets out. I love Snoop Deal Double G. Great person.
So do you love Death Row Records?
I love Death Row. I love Death. Excuse me. Fake news. I love Death Row.
That is very good.
Death Row record, Mr. Trump.
All of them.
That is funny. That is very good. That's very well done, I must admit. It obviously doesn't look like him. I'm sure you could put makeup on and look like him. Oh, that's the end of an hour. But sure, I'm sure he could. His voice is just perfect. Yeah, that is funny. Okay, guys, that's another hour in the can. Coming back for hour number 4 shortly. Okay, guys, it's going to be another long one. We're on the 4th hour now. This is probably going to be a 2-parter. So, 73, David Smith. Ben, what is wrong with anyone coming anywhere to live, coming from anywhere to live for any reason they want? Because it can cause a breakdown of social cohesion and culture and wherever they want to live if too many people move there in the same time. This is why the Spanish are very concerned right now about too many British people, British, Germans, and mostly British, but other Europeans moving into the seaside resorts around the coast of the Mediterranean. Do you think that's reasonable? Do you think a lot of people who support mass immigration into Britain say the Spanish are quite right to be concerned about their own mass immigration problem from Britain. You see, if you walk down around Marbella and places like that, you can see English spoken almost as much as Spanish. Do you think there's something wrong with that? I do. You talk about fighting the NWO, but you're against basic freedoms like being able to choose where to live. No, I actually believe that, in a sense, you people shouldn't just be able to choose where. I don't think it's be against basic freedoms just to be able to choose, not to be able to choose where you live. For example, I can't go and choose to live in your house. It's your home. I can't. If I say, well, I want to move in, I can't. It's your property. In a sense, a nation is the property of a people in that way. So that's another reason. And secondly, the kind of immigration we have in the world today is kind of engineered. It's not just happening naturally. It's engineered. It's being forced. It's being made to happen for a political strategy. How do you tell the difference from someone you think is part of the replacement conspiracy and someone who wants to live in some other country with good intentions? Well, you can't actually. You can't. However, the effect is much the same. This is why I don't pass judgment on individuals. I live with two men from Sudan. I don't have anything against them. They're good guys. We're not good mates, but we sort of live together. But at the same time, I understand that the reason there's so many people from abroad living in Britain is for that reason. It's designed as a breakdown strategy. It's a fifth columnist conspiracy, as I've explained many times before. David Smith says here on the same video, you skipped over the hologram problem. No, I didn't. You simply replied that it doesn't make it impossible. That's not skipping over. Do you understand what you're doing here? There, you're saying you need someone to prove you that it's impossible to create a holographic plane flying in daylight back in 2000 for you to relinquish your belief that it was in fact a hologram. No, I don't. I'm saying that we can put the issue of whether that's possible or not on the back burner when you take into account the other information Dr. Judy Wood has collated. That's what I'm saying. Ben, if you can't understand this, I think you may have a kind of deep bias that will never allow you to get to the truth of something. No, David, you misunderstand me. You misunderstand me. I think I made that point actually when I brought this up before. You either care about truth, reason, and logic, or you don't. Hang on, you're going down this false rabbit hole now, David. All right. I never call you dishonest or in your day-to-day life. When you argue some of the conspiracy and paranormal cases, I think you're merely trying to prop up your already held beliefs rather than actually looking at things honestly. That whole paragraph is rhetoric. I'm not saying Dr. Wood is wrong for selling a book. I'm saying the fact she has a book that may or may not be giving her much money in no way impacts the accuracy of it. And I'm pretty sure that any building falling down is going to create dust. I mean, come on, how is dust contradictory to the official account? Well, no, I've watched controlled demolitions like Danny Zhivenko. And of course, you do get some dust coming up from the rubble, yes. What you don't get is the entire building turning to dust and nothing hitting the ground. You do get rubble with most buildings. With the World Trade Center, you've got hardly any. So I need to provide evidence of building fairies. What? No, don't be silly. Don't be silly, David. And why do they need dust? Are you being skeptical now, Ben? They are a closely guarded secret. You're being sarcastic now. This is the pink unicorn gambit now. Oh, they use dust as power. All right, I'm not going to read this sarcastic stuff. It all makes sense. You want proof? Oumuamua was one of theirs, if you can't prove me wrong. Again, you are misrepresenting my position, or you misunderstand my position, David. David Smith. Explain to me how Michael Jackson hologram works, then tell me how that applies to showing a jet flying through a daytime sky. All right, David, I will reiterate it again. I don't know how that is possible, but when you take into account the evidence Dr. Judy Wood collated, including the damage to the buildings after being struck by the aircraft, what happened to the buildings afterwards, that indicates that no real aircraft struck that building, okay? Those two buildings. So when you see an aircraft strike the building, you can then speculate that it was some kind of holographic image. How that holographic image works, I don't know, but you do not need to explain that because you have this other evidence. I hope I'm making myself clear enough now, okay? Because this entire paragraph was basically based on a misunderstanding of my entire point. Joe Smith, hello Joe, says on Area 51 alien interview, DNI stands for Director of Naval Intelligence. It does indeed, but according to Victor, it also stands for Department of Naval Intelligence. This agency oversees all intelligence communities, including the CIA, and they issue intelligence reports on security issues. They do. They also issue reports on UFO issues, as we've discussed on previous videos. TK's says here on Area 51 Alien Interview, I'd recommend Mick West's book, Escaping the Rabbit Hole. It might help you, Ben. All right. The thing is, TK, I've watched Mick West's videos entitled, what's it called? What's his? Hang on. What are they called? Hang on. I can't stand it when I can't think of something. Here we are. TFTRH. What's it called? I can't even. Oh yeah, Tales from the Rabbit Hole. That's it. It's this here. Okay, I've watched all of these Tales from the Rabbit Hole on Mick West's channel. Okay, I've watched all of them. So, but I've never read his book. It might help you, Ben. If you want help, that is, as you are completely lost down a rabbit hole and out of your depths, so you won't even be able to see this. All right, so TK, how come I watch Mick West's videos then? Here's a clue for you to show how lost you are. You are the biggest skeptic of the truth that exists. Have you done a video about skeptics? Have I done a video about skeptics, TK? Have I done one? Right. You asked for it. You got it. I'm surprised you don't know this. I really am. Right. Share screen. The Skeptics Portal. There we are. HPANWO Voice. All these are different publications I've done on skeptics. HPANWO TV. My latest was Skeptics 2022 at SUFON. I recommend this one, actually. This is probably the most up-to-date version of that particular lecture I've done. HPANWO Radio. HPANWO. Ben's Bookcase. HPWA. All right, so going back to here. I think that answers your question, TK. Are you, as you are skeptical of the truth so much, why not watch your own video? Also, look up what a Freudian slip means. Yeah, it means you say something wrong, but it's because subconsciously you're thinking something. So your subconscious thought comes out through your words. As putting your name on an email when you didn't intend to. That is not an example of a Freudian slip. Hashtag out of your depth. Hashtag help for Ben. Oh, what was that about? Oh, yeah, it was John Stewart talking about this guy who put his name on there. I was kind of joking about it being a Freudian slip. I was kind of exaggerating. All right. Okay, now we come on to my community notice. This is something I wrote a little while ago. I wrote a community notice. Oh, I write these occasionally. They get about half a dozen comments. This one's had like about 20. And I said I said, idea for a video, a controversial, a live stream to mark the first anniversary of my infiltration of the 2022 Outer Limits magazine conference. It wouldn't be nasty, no attacking people. I'd like it to be lighthearted, good or bad. Now, I don't often run my ideas past you guys. I tend to like make them and see what you think of them. But this is what a lot of people commented on this. Tor Engen said no problem with that. Right. And we have a conversation here where Marley Pumpkin says, you live in a fantasy world, grow up. Well, Marley, you live in the same world as me then, because and I say here, I actually put in a text reply, well, you're clearly living every moment of your life in it with me. I've never had such a dedicated viewer as you. David Splendid Isolation says, attention seeker, feeding trolls keeps them coming. But you know that, hey? Now they're just bemusement. Dark Corner says, what is your major malfunction, Marley? A Jam Noise 72 says, welcome back. So happy to see you have returned and enjoy being here for every video. We all welcome you once again. I realize you need this or you would have nothing. So I think we need to show you kindness and love the most because you obviously need it. Sending you love, nameless, faceless human. Ben's work obviously means more to you than we all realize and more than you yourself even realize. Nice one. Exactly, Jackie. Yes, Marley. Sinara's Astri gives me the thumbs up. Thanks, Sinara. How are you? Hope you're doing all right. Orwellian Generation, good name. Lush, absolutely yes. This is all on this community notice. David Smith, I'm up for that. I'm surprised Charles Scott hasn't said anything. Stephen Truthseeker, better off doing a paranormal live stream. Okay, well, Stephen, I can do both. I can do both. Dark Corners, love that idea. I think we're pretty unanimous, aren't we? And on the same video, how about this one, says Steve, mumbling. I come on your channel and you can answer questions about your space exploration expertise. Jam Noise says, go away. Steve mumbling says to Jam Noise, why don't you want your hero to be exposed as a know-nothing half-wit? And I said here in reply to Steve, no way. I mean, I was against your appearance on the Apollo Detectives, but was outvoted. There's nothing you could say that you've not already done. Quit while you're behind, Steve. Jam Noise says to me, don't know how he can show his face here, to be honest. David says, splendid isolation. Steve's another goading attention seeker. Much of this comes from his childhood. Steve mumbling says to me, you're the one that's behind. Keep hiding under the table like the rest of those idiots. No, Steve, you're not coming on my channel. No way. You've had your 5 minutes in the sun on Apollo Detectives. I was against that, but you've had it, and that's it, as far as I'm concerned. Ben W says on that community notice, why? You spent last year arguing the toss about the damn thing. Get over it and move on. Well, I said in reply underneath, feel free to skip it if you like, but I intend this video to be fun and humorous, not a serious argument. All right. Ben W says to me, I just don't get it considering how wound up you have been getting trying to explain yourself to that clown and his comments. It's been dragging on a year. No offense meant by my comment. None taken, BW. I mean, you're talking about Charles Scott. I have actually stopped talking to him about this. Okay, this is not to humor Charles Scott or anything like that. It's just, you know, A Person Goes to OLM was by far my most successful video of 2022. It was my favorite, and it's the one I'm most proud of. And I'd like to I suppose I just want to recap. You know, go have a bit of nostalgia. Jam Noise says yes, 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 and yes. So far, only Ben W was against it. Jam Noise says, bro, it's your channel. You can do whatever you want. Whenever you want. You don't have to ask. We will be there. Thanks, Jackie. You know, I know that. I know it's up to me, and I don't normally sort of like put these opinion polls out like this, but it's. I just thought this was different because I just think, you know, I just curious how people would respond to the prospect of that before I did it. Steve mumbling says to John Stewart, "Oh dear, this was left on my alien interview video a while ago. Right. All right, this is... Oh, I see. This is a copy of a comment on Steve Mumbling's channel. This is the unofficial alien interview channel too. Oh, no, this is... Oh, I think this is actually... I think this might actually be... I have a feeling this is Andrew Burlington. Let me just check, actually. Let's go to Steve Mumbling's channel. I'm curious to see this. I'll share screen with you guys. Oh, here we go. Alien interview revisited. Here we go. Right.
Okay. I thought I'd just do another quick video.
Quick video. It's another rambling one where you go on about nothing for ages.
On this interview.
Let's have a look. Where's this? Well, it's not here. Have you deleted it? I can't see it on his channel. I can't see it here. Someone called Anyone for Toast. Cornelius Crew. Sorenable. Hello, Sorenable. How you doing? Cleric. Someone called Cleric. And Cornelius Crew and Steve have a conversation, which I'm not going to read. It's going to be loads of bollocks about me. Okay, so that's it. So I can't see it there. But anyway, let's go back. The unofficial alien, I think this is Yeah, he says here to Steve. Anyway, I think this is Andrew. This is Andrew Burlington. You're wrong. If I'm trying to avoid the truth, and right, maybe this is yeah. Oh, this is Andrew Burlington. If I'm trying to avoid the truth and hoodwink people, why did I part company with Jon Stewart, who wanted to make a new alien interview documentary full of lies and disinformation? In May 2021, he promised me money, but I said no. He finally admitted lying to in his interview with Ben Emlyn-Jones last week, but I knew all along he was up to no good because I did my research. I parted company with him in August 2021 because I knew he was spouting nonsense and seeking fame. So the second-hand car salesman is a bullshitter. Who would have picked that up? Lol. All right, Steve, you've come across essentially, Andrew, he said this publicly. I mean, I wasn't going to say anything because he's only ever discussed this privately with me. He has fallen out with Jon Stewart, and I think that's a great shame. I'm not going to take sides in this division between Andrew and Jon. I respect both of them, and obviously, so. But I think Andrew obviously understands that Steve. I've not watched Steve's video yet, but I can probably guess what it says. Anyway. Weird Weekend North 2023, Sonara's Ash Tree. Extremely enjoyable, Ben, I must say. The thought of going to a city horrifies me these days. It does me too. It really does, Sonara. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like... Well, I live in like a small... I suppose Oxford is really a small city, and it's surrounded by countryside, so could be worse. The idea of living in somewhere like London or Manchester or Birmingham. I mean, you saw my video in Birmingham and how awful it is. It's bloody... No, I mean, I don't mean any disrespect to people like Dave Hodrian who lives there, but it wouldn't suit me. It wouldn't suit me. Andy McGee says on the community notice, the Outer Limits conference video was very entertaining. I say go for it, Ben. Thanks, Andy. I'm going to go for it, yeah. The Crafty Nihilist says on the community notice, will David Jones be making a guest appearance? Well, I shall ask him, Crafty. Well, maybe we can get him to pop his covered sun hat toting head a couple of times. Weird Weekend North Clopite. Great video, Ben. By the way, what do you make of the latest goings on with RDH? Yeah, Clopite. I discussed that in my Trump in Court live stream. I've also done an entire video. It was a live stream called RDH on Panorama. And I've also done an article on HPANWO Voice where I cover this. I'm probably going to have to come back to it because obviously the legal case against Richard has now just been launched and it's going to be more news at a certain point. The Lights Were Low said on the community notice, you need to be dressed for the part. That's my stipulation. All right. Time for the David Jones kit to come out again. I never thought I'd ever do that again. Artemis 2 astronauts live stream, new video. Israel Diego Rivera 2, Genius 2, the real genius, says, where can I buy a Van Allen belt? Well, probably at Halfords. They do fan belts. They probably do Van Allen belts too. And Rick Horden says, Van Allen's 140 belt 14 Belt Street, London, W12HQT. That's where I got mine. Yeah, Rick, but you've got to be a bit careful there. It's very radioactive on that street. You need shielding. You need a meter of water surrounding you. Alfie Noakes laughs. They also sell keys, said the Lights Were Low. Shoes mended while you wait, says Rick Horden. Steve Bumling says, Emlyn-Jones wears one when he plays cricket. Do you know what? I don't actually play cricket. I love watching it. I don't play it. Weird Weekend North 2023. Israel Diego Rivera Genius 2, the real genius, says, sounds like a snoring hyena. What does? Not me, I hope. Alfie Noakes says on Artemis 2 astronauts live stream, Jara calls anyone who didn't have the poke COVIDiots. Right. Jara and I don't agree on everything. This is one. Obviously, we have different opinions on things, and like adults, we can address each other in a polite manner and talk about other things without focusing on that. And Jara himself is here. See, Jara himself has done a comment here, which is interesting because, I mean, he has the information I wanted, and I couldn't think of what he was actually saying, but this is pretty good because he says here, regarding Max Q's question, he's obviously referring to my Fly Jarrah White to the Moon fundraise, which was to see how many propagandists were willing to help me raise $200 million to help me pay for 2 seats for a flight around the moon aboard Soyuz. One ticket was for me, the other was for a propagandist. Back then, such flights were offered by the company Space Adventures. Such a mission would be a suicide mission, given the Soyuz's lack of radiation shielding. I felt it was necessary to become the next Brian Marshall, who famously proved his point that stomach ulcers were caused by bacteria by ingesting it himself. In my case, strapping myself aboard the Soyuz and subject myself to the radiation en route. But later on, SpaceX announced the Starship with its solar storm shelter, which Elon Musk proposes for Moon and Mars missions. If such a shelter is adequate, this would ensure the safety of the crew and would be a better option than flying the Soyuz around the Moon. I've made some educated guesses and estimates on how to keep such a shelter within the specified lifting capabilities by SpaceX, but I must emphasize that SpaceX has not yet unveiled any internal designs for the Starship, and the first flight of the Super Heavy launch vehicle is not scheduled to happen until April the 17th, so we'll need to wait and see. Oh, that's next Friday. Oh, let's check that out. Corningless crew set underneath. That's an amazing display of backpedaling, even for an e-beggar like you. How's that fundraiser for you to buy your granny? Right, you bastard. I'm deleting that. Jarrah, I apologize. How do I delete this video? I'm going to not video comment. Right. Cornelius crew, that's out of order. You do not make personal comments about people. Okay. Cornelius crew says you couldn't recall your backside with both hands and a map. Right. I'm going to block you, you bastard. I'm blocking you. Right. How do I block this twat? About. You're about to witness a live blocking. Report user. Do I just go that? Block user. That's it. Block user. There we go. Goodbye, Cornelius crew, bastard. Don't you dare say that. I mean, you can, saying, yeah, that's it. He's blocked. Okay. Don't you dare. I mean, it's not what you said to me. It's what you say. You can say what you like about people. In taking the mick, even being rude, because I know Jarrah can give as good as he gets, but you brought that up about his grandmother. You know his grandmother died, don't you? You know how fond he was of her, and it's a really cheap shot. It's a really, really nasty cheap shot to use that against him. How dare you, you bastard. Fuck off. Don't ever come near my channel again. Steve Mumling says, what does a solar storm shelter have to do with the Van Allen radiation belts? You have said repeatedly, it's addressing Jarrah, I guess, no human could survive the trip through the Van Allen radiation belts, contrary to the professional scientists that discovered the belts and has them named after him. Why is that? This is the same as saying Ampere was wrong about amps and Volta was wrong about volts. I know you live in a cloud cuckoo land, but do you really not have any idea how ridiculous you sound? Max Q says, exactly, Steve Mumbling. I've caught Marcus Allen in another whopper contradiction. Oh, right. Is this the same one, the false? Is this the false accusation you're talking about on the British Interplanetary Society, is it? It's regarding his appearance on Israeli TV. Time permitting over the weekend, if I even get one, I'll pass you some details. I'm sure you'll be wanting to make a video about this. All right. Oh, Max, my nail. Oh, my God. Max has got something on I'm biting my nails here. He's passing the dirt on Marcus Allen to Steve Mumbling. Oh, my goodness me. Marcus, you've been rumbled. You've been mumbled. Dr. White, PhD. It's she. Oh, right. Miss Maxine Kiao. That's apparently is Max Q's name. I'm sure the relevance of well, that's what she says her name is. I'm sure the relevance of my YouTube name, Max Q, isn't lost on you. Maybe it is. You're the second, if not third, to get that confused. Maybe I need to change my profile photo. He, she, or its profile photo is like a female boxer. And Steve says to Max Q, thanks, Max. I still haven't watched their version of the episode of The Defectives I was in. So I still have to make a video about it. Maybe I could include it in that. I think you two are trying to scare me and scare Marcus, aren't you? Like you're going to, oh my goodness me, Marcus has been caught out. None of us knew it, but Marcus is a liar. You know, as you know from the previous program where I talked about this, just for a while, this was years ago. This is what, 11 years ago when Marcus was at BIS? I believed it for a while. That's why I wrote those 2 articles about, and it's not true. It's not true. because I believed your distortions. Oh, Jara, thanks for the comment, Jara. Jara, if you're watching, I'm sorry about that. Cornelius Crew having a go at you over using your grandmother against you. I've blocked him and I've removed the comment. That was so. I don't mind people being rude, and I don't mind people being bitchy sometimes and get into arguments. That's absolutely fine. But there is a line, and Cornelius crossed that line. Recording World Economic Forum, WEF in space, simply glorious. World Economic Forum. Right, Cornelius Crew. I'm right. Is right. I'm just deleting all your comments now. You actually, this comment is a bit rude, but I would honestly, if you hadn't said what you did about Jara's nan, I'd have actually answered this. But I'm not going to because of what you said. So that comment is going. Right. We have here the community guidelines notice. David Jones will always be an inspiration for any budding ufologist. Thank you very much, Vic. Thank you. BZ Garson says here on Artemis, on Artemis 2 astronauts live stream, 1 hour 15 minutes to tell us he doesn't like black astronauts and women astronauts in that stupid fucking kiddie voice. But he doesn't actually object to the black astronaut or the woman astronaut who are part of the Artemis 2 crew. Is he privy to the selection process? They may be best in the class. Nothing worse than a MAGA Trumper, Putin worshipping right-wing fence sitter. All right, BZ, I'm deleting your comment because what you've just said here is actually slanderous. You know very well that just saying those words, people will read it and they will immediately react to it without listening to my side of the story, or even in watching the video in which you have misrepresented me so grossly and you have libeled me so badly. Maybe it is that you hope that people will read, misunderstand, and then attack me. So that comment is going in the bin. And if you continue to post such slander about me, I will block you. All right, Apollo Detectives 12, Steve Mumbling special. 3 crack whores and a baby. I think a set of questions should have been discussed beforehand, so both parties have a clear right to reply and explain. Steve was just throwing random questions about. Indeed, we all know the Apollo missions are vast in complexity. You know, I'm just going to call you 3. All right. I don't want to read out your entire username again. That's probably true. There should have been more planning and preparation. I mean, to be honest, I was against Steve Mumbling even being there. And I'm certainly not going to be on any other video with Steve Mumbling. But I think it probably would have been better if there had been some agreed script beforehand, a list of questions, a list of issues. Instead, we just invited him on, and Scott did his thing, and Steve kept interrupting him and just trying to shut him down, which is really, really annoying. Okay, and here we are. Marley Pumpkin. Oh, God. Marley Pumpkin on Artemis 2 astronaut. You keep going on about White Hat, which is childish cure nonsense. Oh, that's a good one. Cure nonsense. Very, very good, Marley. Very droll. You're wittier than Jonathan Ross. You believe anything. Actually, I have done an entire video called Why the 17th Letter is Real. Obviously, it's not on YouTube. I had to put it as an Alt Tech exclusive. And you'll find out if you watch that it's not that word at all. Also, your snorting, gargling, and farting is offensive. Well, it's not offensive to you, is it? Because you keep watching it. You keep watching my videos. You watch every single one. You watch it non-stop from start to finish, and you just sit there. I bet you sub to me, don't you? And you click the notification bell, and you just sit by your computer all day watching. Oh, what's the time? Surely Ben is going to upload another one soon. Surely. Oh, when's he going to upload one? When's he going to upload a video? I don't know. Oh, God, it's been 3 days. He hasn't uploaded one. I'm going to go crazy if he doesn't upload a video soon. Oh, dearie me. Oh, oh, thank goodness Ben has uploaded a video. I'm going to go watch it now. And you sit there like this with you. You don't even blink, I bet, watching my videos, do you? Right, Cornelius Crew has posted a comment there, which I'm going to remove because Cornelius is blocked. Artemis 2. Tessa 1111. Affirmative action is like daylight savings time. Useless pretense. Yes, of course it is, Tessa. Exactly. Except the worst you get with daylight saving is you have to get up a bit early and feel a bit more tired. With affirmative action, you get hatred, you get bitterness, you get self-hatred, hatred of the other. It's extremely destructive. But you're absolutely right. Okay, so Max Q says here on Artemis 2. Starship 24S FTS is now armed, restacking with Booster 7 as expected today, and a launch date of the 17th of April has been penciled in pending FAA approval. That's right, it's next Friday. We've just been talking about that. Although I want to see the stack fly as soon as possible, I'm kind of hoping for a 20th of April. That's the Saturday. The number 42, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, might be significant for some reading this, and they may also know how often this number has cropped up during Starship Super Heavy development. Well, you know, Max, honestly, I'd be interested in seeing that. I really would. Oh, and Max now has actually put a. This is actually, we reached the end now. We reached the top, which is good. Max now has a video. I'm just going to play it. Let me just go to. There we go. I'm just going to show screen share because Max has a video. It's called Starbase. Here we go. Well, when's it going to take off? Is there a closure issued for Starship launch attempt on April the 17th? All right, it's not for a while yet. It's not for a while. You can see how big it is. Look at those little cars down there. Lots of people commenting. We've got over 2,000, 2,500 watching already. Well, you know, maybe we could, you know, if I'm up to it, I'll do a live stream. I will. I mean, I'm not sure what I'm doing, but you know, that'd be a good thing to do a live stream about. Max Q. It's not often I completely agree with you on things, but this is something I quite like the look of. All right, I've gone back to, let me just see. Yes, I have. All right, and so that's YouTube done, basically. So, well, it's obviously I'll come back and check YouTube in a minute. But I'm now going to go to BitChute. Go to good old BC because I'm now how am I doing for time? Right, you know, it's hang on, I've got to stop. Bugger it. I didn't restart. Sorry guys, I'm gonna have to I've just messed up with the whole timer, so I'm just gonna have to go by 35 minutes recorded. I've got another 25 minutes. I'm just gonna have to keep looking at the time elapsed. At least on StreamYard, you do get that, a time elapsed timestamp, so you know where you're going. Okay. BitChute. I'll go through, firstly, I'm going to go through the saved comments, and then I will go through my recent uploads. So just going to go through these. There's one from me. All right, yeah, someone posted a comment on the Artemis 2 live stream as soon as I uploaded it, so I'll be going to that. I'm just going to scroll through these. BitChute, like I said, has come along technically quite well. I did have a failed upload last week, and I had to do what's the word? I had to do it's a Sweeps Fox. Ah, Sweeps. This is on one of his videos. Yeah, good old Sweeps. Thanks, Sweeps. He was talking about Don Jr. That's on his video, though, not mine. I did have a failed upload. I had to do a re-upload. That's the first one in ages. First one in ages. Area 51 alien interview with Jon Stewart. I've got two here. J330 says, so you helped Matt Cock and the NHS kill thousands of English people. Are coming fat, you scumbag murderers. How many people did you transport to their deaths? Make sure you're up to date for your B words. That's, you know, the extra jabs. You look like a fat twat in your picture, by the way. Yeah. And of course, you would only ever say that to me online, wouldn't you, Jay? Or, you know, come along to one of my, why don't you say that to my face? Come along to one of my conferences. And as always, you are, what you're saying is because I was a hospital porter, I'm somehow responsible for all this. I've actually was kicked out of hospital portering in 2012, so I've nothing to do with the C word. So shut the hell up. Now, the issue, if you're talking more generally about people who work in service to the state and things like that, that has come up before several times in my life. To be honest, why? Who doesn't in some way contribute? Are you telling me, Jay, that you've never paid tax in your life? Are you telling me you've never worked for a corporation or a government in your life? Have you ever been in the military? You've been in the civil service? Have you ever worked for a major corporation? If so, you have done exactly the same as I have done. So get off your high horse. Let's just face it, right? We're all in this society. All of us have to take responsibility for our actions. But the idea that you single out one person and focus on them is, and without without anyone, not only just other people, but yourself. Do you not see how unfair that is? I now have I mute libtards. Okay, right. This is They are not aliens. The cabal are all Satanists. They know damn well they're demons, and yes, they used to be like us until they betrayed man by worshipping Satan, and now they're grey demons. The so-called Galactic Federation is fallen angels. There are no aliens, period. I mute libtards. You are wrong. Now, you're not completely wrong, because there are such things as demons, but the demons exist and aliens exist as well. Aliens are simply like us. They're beings that live within this universe. Demons are something else. They're denizens of hell, of the evil lower astral hell, whatever you want to call it. So you're partly right about something, but you're wrong to say there are no aliens, and the aliens are not demons. I'm actually reading a book about this very subject right now, which I hope to discuss more in the future. So stay tuned. There'll be a future video about this, I expect, or certainly a future radio show. Okay, let's carry on down here. I did put a notice comment on that. I was going to double check I put a notice on that. Yes, I did. I put one on both. So carry on down here. Keep scrolling. Sorry, I'm just going. I don't want to miss any comments that have been posted on an old video pre my recent uploads, because of course it does provide. What's lovely about BitChute is it now does provide basically notifications for older videos, and I have here on an old video called UFO Disclosure 2023, catching up with Steve Bassett. I have here. I love my haters says. Oh no, sorry, I've done that one. I love my haters says. Bye, Felicia. Who's Felicia? This is in reply to me. Because you said you have to unsubscribe. I can't watch this, etc. Okay, and I replied. I just gave her. I love my haters a comments reply notice, and then they just say bye Felicia. I don't know who's Felicia is. I'm not. That's not my name. And then finally, there's the two comments by me. Okay, that's it. And I'm just going to go through recent uploads on BitChute. So mark all as read. I'm just going to get rid of I don't want to get confused anymore. So oops, no. Delete all. That's okay, right. Okay, I'm going to have to go back and get this here right. Okay, so that's no notifications found, it should say. It doesn't. Okay, so on to Odyssey. It would help if I had the page open. Odyssey. Now, as far as I've got no notes in I haven't got anything on the in my notes, my own private notes, which means I have no Odyssey comments from videos before. Oh, sorry, I've got to go back to. I'm just going to go back to BitChute and go through my recent uploads. So reply to comment 73. So I always go to your channel page on BitChute, because they don't always appear in the notification, you see. That's it. So I'm just going to go back to BitChute now, and I'm going to go through my recent uploads. That's the 5 videos I've done since the last comments reply video. We have here Rapture Days, who says the Mideast is about to go hot and Israel is in trouble. And there's there's a link to a video here. All right, Rapture Days. I'm not going to watch that just now. I've got a feeling I know what it's going to be. It's going to be a kind of one, because I think I recognize your name when you've posted advertising, essentially adverts on my channel before, which I don't mind. I don't mind you advertising your own videos or anyone else's in channel comments. That's fine with me. Okay, Weird Weekend North 2023, no comments. Trump in court live stream. No comments. That surprised me, actually, on BitChute. I didn't get that. Alien interview with Jon Stewart, I've just done. And finally, Artemis 2 live stream. And I have a single comment from someone called Chattel, and it's just a clown's face. Okay, I'm live now. Sorry about the delay, guys. About 5 minutes late. Chattel's just posted a clown face. All right, so that's BitChute done. On to Odyssey. I'm just going to check recent notifications to see if I've got any comments on older last comments reply videos. Bloody blah. Going to go down here. No, it's not. Okay. Someone has left one on my recent video. This is on Trump in Court live stream. Right. So I have some comments on my most recent video. So I'll now go to my channel page. How am I doing for time? Right, about a quarter of an hour left. On my channel page, right. Content. Okay, reply to comments 73. Odyssey does take longer. The pages take longer to upload because of the adverts. But I'm glad. I said I don't mind these big ad pains on Odyssey because I'm glad they have a funding model, a sustainable funding model. Because alt tech needs that. They need a way. They need a way to make money. They need advertisers, seeing as they don't charge for their services. Weird Weekend North 2023. No comments. Oops. Okay. Trump in court live stream. Two comments. The Sock said, Trump's just a sideshow to cover the US proxy war in Ukraine is failing. People dropping like flies from the V-word genocide and government slave coins are just around the corner. Stuff Trump. He's just another arsehole politician. No, he's not. No, he's not the Sock. Now, you're absolutely right about the things to do with Ukraine and the V-word and what you call slave coins, which, of course, is fiat currency and indeed the CBDC, the central bank digital currency. You're right about all that. But Trump is not just another arsehole politician. He's different. And what's more, he is not just a sideshow. Diego Rivera says, free Emlyn-Jones. Thanks, Diego Rivera. And good you're on Odyssey, mate. Thank you. Okay, now we're alien interview with Jon Stewart. No comments. And finally, Artemis 2 astronauts live stream. Actually, and as I said, I knew there was a comment on here, and it's from Shelley of the Red, the one and only Shelley of the Red. Hi, Shelley, how you doing? Yep, two injustices don't make a right. Yeah, that's you're talking about the affirmative action, positive discrimination thing, Shelley. I really hate all the cultural Marxism, people trying to manipulate people instead of respecting each other out of our duties as civics. People just get frantic and crazy because they feel invisible. That's not to say woke bullying is a valid claim to special treatment either. It's back to claiming your special rights. Good day over there. Good day, Shelley. Well said. You're absolutely correct. Thank you very much for your comment. So now I'm going to go to Rumble. I think we might actually just get this in. It might be just inside 4 hours, which would mean it will be a one-part video, not a two-parter. Rumble. Okay. So as always with Rumble, I get email notifications. And I always make a note of them if I have them. I'm just going to go to my emails and check. So just to double check, I haven't got any comments on old videos. So we are Rumble. So let's go back to before the last. Let's go back to the before the. Here we go. 4th of the 10th of April. 4th of April. And so we go back to the 30th of March, which is when the last comments reply video was. Okay, currently subscribed, currently subscribed, currently subscribed. I'm just going to skim through these quickly to see if I've got any notifications for old video, old notice. I mean, it doesn't matter if the new ones, I'm going to go through my channel anyway. Gateway Pundit, Jordan Sather, Sticks Hexenhammer. I've got some. I sub to all my usual people on Rumble, just like I do on the other all alt techs. Podcast, the Lotus Eaters. Yeah. I tend to watch them. I tend to watch certain people on certain platforms, like Jordan Sather. I tend to watch on Rumble, whereas Podcast, the Lotus Eaters, I tend to watch on Odyssey. And of course, Paul Joseph watching BitChute. It's just a habit. Okay, it's none there. So now I'm going to go to my uploads. So reply to comment 73. No comments. Weird Weekend North 2023. No comments. Trump in court live stream. People, I tend to get much fewer comments on Rumble. No comments. Area 51 alien interview with Jon Stewart. No comments. Artemis 2 astronauts live stream. No comments. Right. So I'm now going to go to my YouTube. Where is it? I'm now going to go to YouTube notifications, if the page will open, and we'll just do those. And if that doesn't work, then if there's no new ones that I have to reply to, then that's the end of the this particular comments reply video. And it is at inside 4 hours just, which means it will be a one-parter. So just wait for the page to open. Right, and I've just run out of dragon juice as well, so that's good timing, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so notifications. I've got more than 9 notifications. Okay, so what was this on? Oh, right, that's on a different video. Okay, there's one from Cornelius Crew, which I'll delete that in a minute. I just want to go through these. Cornelius Crew's blocked, so I'm going to delete all his comments. And it's just another rude one, so okay, so let's have a look. Scrolling down 2 hours ago. Ginskin Pivot says on here. Okay, Ben, you can't just sweep this aside and plug your ears with your fingers. Alan did change his position, and it would be nice if he actually addressed his own direct quote at the BIS. No, he didn't. And then, of course, we have this repeat of the script, which I've already been through, Jin. I've already been through it. I'm not going to go through it again. I don't agree with you, and I've explained why. And indeed, Marcus and I have discussed this. Precisely what is consistent about Alan's position as a commentator not known for accepting manned landings while briefly and on camera affirming them as a renowned group of PhDs. No, he didn't say that. He said that there's more than enough evidence to be persuaded that people have walked on the moon. I'm not going to go through the exact quote. He did not say that means everything in Apollo is true. That's your misrepresentation. You and other people like you who believe in the official story of the Apollo moon landings. Okay, that's it. Okay, guys. So I'll just refresh this. It shouldn't be a problem. I just wanted to delete Cornelius's another attack on me. Right, where are we now? He's where is it? Oh, I'll find it. It's on the latest video, and I'll just delete that comment. So that's the end of this comments reply video. It's just inside 4 hours, which means it will be a one-parter. But thank you, all of you, for those comments. Except for the people, of course, I've banned and deleted. I appreciate them all. As again, I don't have a problem with people with robust conversation. Even rudeness and aggression I can take. I'm a big, ugly ex-hospital porter. It's the line is crossed when people start saying things about people's grandmothers and stuff like that. That's wrong. And I don't tolerate that. So if you do that, I delete your comments. If you do it again and again, I'll block you. So that's the 74th comments reply video. There's going to be another video soon. Now, the next video will probably be on Wednesday because there's another UFO disclosure hearing. Kirsten Gillibrand is doing a chair it. and it's going to be from Washington DC. Now, I was toying with doing like a live stream thing, but I've decided not to. I'm going to watch it live, make some notes, and then do a recording version of it on UFO Disclosure recording, where I'll be going through it piece by piece by piece. All right, so I'll do a full deep dive into it. Going through it live while doing a live stream, I have to answer comments and stuff like that. It's no fun. So I hope that's okay with you. So it'll probably come out. It'll probably be out later in the night because the actual event starts at about 4:30, I think, UK time. That's probably going to be the next video. There probably won't be another one before that. But you never know. Something might happen. I might even think of one. So thank you all of you who left comments. Thank you all of you who've watched and not left comments. That's very, very great. Remember, like, share, subscribe. Check out my other videos. Go through all the old ones like Hugo Rune is doing. Thank you for watching HPANWO TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order.